Chapter 1648. How are you guys? Can you still stand it? Sue was a little worried. When they reached 2,000 meters, the soul pressure around them had increased, but their souls had not been crushed too much. Instead, because they had adapted to the dangerous environment of Broken Sword Sea, everyone's soul energy began to recover. I'm not good. After Li Shiran replied, her face was pale, her body trembled slightly, and her eyes began to become a little empty. Sue looked dignified. Among the 5 of them, only Li Shiran had a half-step heaven rank soul, but the further down they went, the more obvious the gap between half-step heaven rank and heaven rank soul became. Her ability to withstand the pressure of the surrounding seawater, as well as the recovery ability of her soul energy, was not as good as Tian Ho's. Run the art of driving the heavens, converge your soul energy into your mind, and condense your hand seals. Tian Chong shouted. Sister! Hold on. We can do it. At this moment, Li Shiran could only sit on the white flood dragon god with her eyes closed. According to Tian Ho's instructions, the art of driving the heavens began to run, and at the same time, countless mystical lights filled her body. In the black tide, countless tiny water-attributed substances condensed around Li Shiran's body. The pinprick-sized water origin energy began to condense into ice, and blue ice crystals constantly swirled around Li Shiran's body. Suddenly, a terrible storm of energy swept out from her body, turning into a circle of light that wrapped around Li Shiran like a weapon. The ice circle was transparent, and the incomparably sharp ice crystals constantly shattered in the space, resisting the terrible energy sound waves. Looking at the hurricane-like soul attack that kept sweeping around Li Shiran, Tian Ho and the others were stunned. Whoosh whoosh! Chu looked at Li Shiran's messy hair in surprise and said, "The fog flower mirror snow of the cloud shadow frost steppes. Sister is using our Li family's fog flower mirror snow." In a moment of desperation, Li Shiran used all her martial skills and soul skills. The Fog Flower Mirror Snow was the first level of the Cloud Shadow Frost Step. Cloud Shadow Treading Frost Steps was a martial technique derived from the Crimson Water Celestial Crystal Fragment. Could be used only by relying on a bit of Yuan Qi. It was mainly powered by soul force. Fusing the spatial laws and nature attribute, it was an extremely profound martial technique. Misty Flower Mirror Snow was the first layer. It could hide a martial artist's aura and construct a small world of their own attribute. It could create an ice crystal path that was suitable for walking in a straight line. It was very convenient for short-distance battles. But what he didn't expect was that Mistress Jingxue could seriously weaken the Broken Sword Sea's all-pervasive and terrifying attacks. Seeing Li Shiran's complexion gradually improve inside the ice crystal, Su Yi's mouth curved into a faint smile and said, "So that's how it is." Chu used the Cloud Shadow Frost Steps immediately. This place is rich in water attribute, so the Cloud Shadow Frost Steps is very suitable, Su Yi said loudly. Seeing this scene, everyone understood. It turned out that Li Shiran had made a lucky hit. She had used the Cloud Shadow Frost Steps, which was also a soul technique, to construct a layer of natural barrier, relieving a lot of pressure for herself. In this way, the invasion of the water pressure almost didn't exist. In addition, Misty Flower Mirror Snow was affected by the quality of her soul and her cultivation, which weakened the soul pressure. Li Shiran was much more comfortable inside the ice crystal barrier. Tian Wu, Han Yuro, and Chu nodded at the same time. Listening to Su Yi's advice, Chu instantly formed hand seals with both hands. A huge amount of soul pressure filled with water attribute energy spread out from her body and violently surged out from her body. Pung pung. Sitting on the ground, Chu's body was instantly covered in ice crystals. The world-shaking sonic boom of the water body was instantly reduced by a lot. With the disappearance of the water pressure, Chu's soul force also began to sharply decrease. "It's useful, it's really useful. Big brother Su Yi," Chu shouted excitedly. Tian Wu Euro, you don't have the cloud shadow frost step. Use any other methods that can resist the soul pressure or the water pressure. Leave the rest to me. I will send you there. Su-yi anxiously roared. Then, a huge icy blue waterfall shot out from Su-yi's hand like a python soaring into the sky. The surrounding water vapor was instantly pushed to the side, causing everyone to tremble in fear. Boom! More and more vortexes appeared around them. The white flood dragon god's huge body lightly shuttled back and forth in the dark space, dodging the countless sonic booms. Gradually, he saw another light. Turning around, he saw that Tian Wu, Han Euro, and the others had all entered a meditative state. Divine light surged around them, and white lightning threads lingered around them like angry dragons. Clearly, they had reduced the consumption of their soul force to a minimum and were in a state of equilibrium. Looking at the 3,000-meter circle of light, Su-yi's heart sank. He muttered, "Little White, it's up to you and me now. Once we reach 4 or 5,000 meters, it will be time for them to shine. Little White, let's do it in one go." Su-yi's eyes narrowed. Then, a bright light flashed in his eyes. Su-yi revolved the Origin Supreme Art to the limit. Space trembled, and soul force that covered the heavens and earth surged out, drawing upon the boundless and terrifying heaven and earth energy. Pung pung. In an instant, the entire sea became extremely resplendent. A blue waterfall condensed in his palm, tearing through space as it collided with the final vortex. The space in front of the palm shattered inch by inch, and the snow-white light around it exploded with a loud bang. 3,000 meters. We've arrived. Su-yi had already brought everyone to the 3,000 to 4,000 meter depth. At this point, the number of disciples in the heavenly command palace had increased by a lot. Whew! This Jun Haotian's soul force is indeed extraordinary. To be able to reach 5,000 meters with just his own strength, it's truly rare. Su-yi thought of Jun Haotian's words before he entered the sea, and an unyielding battle intent soared into the sky. However, you'll still lose. 15,000 meters? Su-yi sneered. The heaven-shaking sound was like the cry of a divine beast. The white flood dragon god's incomparably deep voice resounded through the entire circle. Countless light dots in the distance began to tremble, and some even began to swim back. Looks like most of the heavenly command palace's disciples are around 3,000 to 4,000 meters. Su-yi's lips curled up slightly as he looked at the light dots nearby. Whoosh! In the next instant, Su-yi's soul force surged, and the heavenly origin beast soul was like a dazzling sun. In an instant, Su-yi's palm blasted out. The white flood dragon god's incomparably huge body retreated slightly, and it was already dozens of breaths away from the others. It's Su-yi. What's that behind him? I don't know. How can he be so fast? Calm. Wonderful Book House. Chapter 1649. Holy shit, it's the white flood dragon god. This brat is cheating. I'm guessing that those who can reach the bottom will have to rely on all sorts of soul skills. This brat is too scheming. Let's see how he's going to reach the bottom. At the depth of 3,000 to 4,000 meters, there were already over 100 command palace disciples on both sides of the tall platforms. The disciples who were preparing to start refining pills and weapons saw the incomparably huge figures that were like divine beasts soaring into the sky. They couldn't help but tremble in their hearts as they saw the incomparably huge figures that were like divine beasts soaring into the sky. The boundless pressure coming from above was not on the same level as theirs. This aura naturally carried the domineering might of an emperor. The destructive aura of a king made all the command heavenly palace disciples, who were refining pills at the depth of 3,000 to 4,000 meters, feel the urge to submit. No. I feel that my soul pressure is a bit uncomfortable. A command heavenly palace disciple kept on complaining. Yeah, this brat is really smart. The command heavenly soul competition should rely on one's own strength. The Command Heavenly Palace disciples who could only refine tools were furious as they watched Su-yi swim away. In the vast broken sword sea, one could see a deep trench in space like a boat. The incomparably dark surroundings were filled with the corrosion of the soul pressure. Su-yi, who was standing on the white Jiao God's back, had a pair of bright eyes. He looked at the descending depth and said in his heart, "Little White, hold on a little longer. We're almost at 4,000 meters and 5,000 meters. Su-yi also understood that 5,000 meters was the White Flood Dragon God's limit. Any deeper and it would be very likely that the White Flood Dragon God's soul would scatter. Roar. Terrifying whirlpools constantly rushed out from both sides as if they wanted to swallow everyone alive. Suddenly, two demonic beasts bearing their fangs and brandishing their claws rushed out from the whirlpools. A few phantoms flashed in the air, and in an instant, the entire space was filled with a repulsive force that engulfed the entire area. The immense soul pressure was like an ancient mountain that had collapsed, and all of it pressed down on Su-yi. Bang! One could only hear Su-yi's bones exploding as his joints moved slightly. Golden dragon patterns began to appear and envelop Su-yi's body like a divine light with a mighty aura. Is it a sea demon? Su-yi's heart sank. This place was less than 4,000 meters deep, so how could there be sea demon beasts here? Roar. Su-yi's eyes widened as he subconsciously roared in his heart. Two fiery dragons like lightning shot out from his palms and collided with the demonic beasts in the darkness. Bang! Two piercingly cold silhouettes flashed past. Su-yi focused his eyes and saw that they were the remnant souls of two blood-toothed mad shark beasts. They were incomparably cold and gleaming with cold light. After being hit by Su-yi's fire dragon, it retreated rapidly. Near the boundless sea of broken swords, it spat out a scarlet aura and kept staring at Su-yi. It roared in a low voice, ready to swallow Su-yi alive at any time. At the same time, Su-yi could sense spatial ripples flashing in the air around him. Then, more than a dozen figures appeared at the same time. Suddenly, the energy in the world began to condense into soul energy. Their killing intent was awe-inspiring. More than a dozen gazes, like sharp blades, stared at Su-yi. And here I was wondering who it was. We meet again. Su-yi sneered. It turned out that the people who had come were none other than the disciples of Heavenly Command Palace that he had just angrily insulted. Now that he had reached the distance of 3,000 to 4,000 meters, they actually turned back to meet him and brought two other teams with them. Running back to die? Are you tired of living? Su-yi shouted angrily. At this moment, under Su-yi's seemingly casual gaze, the soul energy around him instantly reached its peak, covering the sky and covering the earth, completely sealing off the few of them. Don't be so arrogant, Su-yi. You'll stop here today. In an instant, the dozen or so Imperial Celestial Palace disciples were riled up by Su-yi's provocation. Instantly, the seawater at the bottom of the broken sword sea began to surge. The pressure of the turbulent seawater combined with the pressure of everyone's soul created an extremely terrifying force. The whirlpool could be heard everywhere, causing the entire space to tremble. Purring! More than 10 Imperial Celestial Palace disciples acted at the same time, waving their hands abruptly. Their hand seals changed, and a vast wave of energy began to spread from their palms. Following this wave of energy that gathered more than 10 people, the spatial pressure of the entire 3,000 to 4,000 meter radius was instantly disrupted. Several consecutive sonic booms rang out, and the attacks were like water cannonballs exploding around them. The entire broken sword sea was like a huge wave, and everyone's mind was shaken. Deng deng deng. The disciples of Command Heavenly Palace all retreated a dozen steps, and Su-yi sighed, even though he had grabbed onto the wings of the White Flood Dragon God. He still took 2 steps back. His heart couldn't help but turn heavy. The disciples of Command Heavenly Palace in front of him were all at the early or middle stage of the 3rd rank, and only one of them was at the advanced stage of the third rank. They couldn't be considered strong, and the quality of their souls was at most half a step into the heavenly rank. They were completely a motley crew. Seeing the joint attack of the disciples of Command Heavenly Palace, Su Yi's eyes instantly became sharp, and a killing intent shot out from within. He secretly analyzed in his heart. The reason why he was able to produce such a powerful soul energy was because he had gathered everyone's soul energy. This was definitely a terrifying energy. Immersed in soul cultivation for many years, their soul energy was incomparably condensed. Compared to him, they were completely relying on their soul talent to survive, and didn't even have any soul skills. This was the real reason why Su Yi wanted Duanmu Xiaoman to guide him. This trip to Command Heavenly Palace was to raise his soul energy and train his soul cultivation, so that he could participate in the Heavenly Wind ranking tournament. This was the most important reason for Su Yi, other than visiting the Su family. Su Yi, did you have a good time talking up there? The disciples of Command Heavenly Palace glared at Su Yi, and their hearts were filled with hatred, but their mouths were filled with sinister smiles. Don't think that with Gyue and Palace Lord protecting you, you can do whatever you want. This is the bottom of the Broken Sword Sea, no one will know even if I kill you. Yes, we might not be able to reach 7,000 meters, but you might not be able to swim either. No, you definitely won't be able to swim there. Ha 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 ha. The disciples of Command Heavenly Palace trembled in fear. They knew that today's Command Heavenly Soul competition was different from the previous years. It was the best of the best and not the average. Therefore, these disciples of Command Heavenly Palace naturally gave up on the Command Heavenly Soul competition. Living in the Arch K Lake, they had always looked up to the direct disciples of Command Heavenly Palace. They originally thought that with most of the direct disciples eliminated, they would have a chance. But because of the change in the rules, all of their efforts became illusions. In the end, this Command Heavenly Soul competition was a contest between Jun Haotian and Su Yi, and had nothing to do with them. Chapter 1650. Jealousy, humiliation, and resentment made them want to stop Su Yi even if they didn't participate in the soul-controlling competition. Are you guys trying to be rat shit? Killing intent surged in Su Yi's eyes. Su Yi scoffed at this kind of stupid behavior that harmed others without benefiting themselves. Rat shit? That's because you've never experienced the despair of not being able to fight. Su Yi, you'll pay for everything you've done. Today you'll be buried here. Su Yi's heart shuddered. These people were fighting with all their might, but they still had some tricks up their sleeve. The key was that he only had a heaven-defying spiritual energy. They were all spirit controllers, but he didn't even have half of their spirit skills. Boom boom boom. Spent force. Su Yi, go to hell, little bastard. Dozens of figures instantly dispersed. In a short moment, a vast spiritual energy fluctuation began to spread from everyone's body. A terrifying soul energy converged and instantly merged with the seawater. Waves surged violently, and a black cylindrical vortex appeared out of thin air, twisting endlessly like a black python. The boundless soul energy collapsed and caused the space to tremble uncontrollably. The gathering of such a huge amount of spiritual energy instantly caused the space around Broken Sword Sea to shatter inch by inch. The surrounding seawater was like powder as it rapidly shot to the side. Wherever the majestic black tornado passed, a terrifying energy fluctuation spread out from it. It rushed towards Su Yi with bared fangs and brandished claws. Su Yi, even if I had to choose one person, it would still be Jun Haotian. You outsider, go to hell. Jie. Dozens of Heavenly Command Palace disciples seemed to have a common enemy. They shouted coldly and their killing intent soared to the sky. Dozens of figures followed the attack of the water vortex. The water vortex reached Su Yi's head in a flash. It looked like Su Yi was about to be crushed by the vortex. Su-yi turned back to look at the four people who were still focused. He clenched his teeth and roared fiercely. Get lost. Above the high cliff, the seawater and the wind blew. The rolling dark clouds in the sky were obscure and bleak. They stared at the people on the light screen with grave expressions. Ling Yifeng's expression was getting uglier and uglier. Han Wulong, who was standing with his hands clasped behind his back, seemed to have sensed that something was wrong. He immediately released a monstrous energy, and his fiery aura soared to the sky as he pointed at the light screen. Su-yi's light spot was not only stagnant, but it was also surrounded by more than a dozen new light spots. What happened? Why were Su-yi and the others surrounded? F***ck her. Who's blocking my daughter? Amidst the silence, Han Wulong's sudden outburst had indeed made everyone present feel a suffocating pressure. Even the surrounding air had begun to solidify, and a monstrous killing intent had swept through the air. The ordinary elders who had looked a little strange just now retreated slightly. Long Pashan and Luowuya's faces were also extremely solemn, and they did not say a word. Bang! Duanmu Xiaoman, who was standing at the front, suddenly sighed. She gently lifted her white long sleeve, and a pair of deep, watery eyes easily obliterated Han Wulong's oppressive aura in the void. There was no trace of water, and everything returned to calm. There was not even a ripple. Why don't you try shouting again? Duanmu Xiaoman's casual words indeed concealed a terrifying killing intent. Instantly, everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. Looks like Palace Head Duanmu was truly enraged. Han Wulong frowned. He knew that Duanmu Xiaoman was not to be trifled with. He immediately cupped his hands. The killing intent in his tiger eyes was awe-inspiring as he stared at the ordinary elders in the distance. If it was not their idea, who would have the guts to attack Su-yi and the others? Su-yi had a bet with the palace master. Han Yuro was Han Wulong's daughter, and the other three were under Elder Gyu. How could ordinary disciples have the guts to provoke them? Palace Master Duanmu, I, Han Wulong, am not the one causing trouble. Look, Su-yi and the others are being surrounded. Han Wulong said. Shwa. Immediately, on the light screen, Su-yi's position was instantly stared at by all the elders. Gue, Guanlan, and the others frowned and their faces darkened. Speak. Was it you bastards who instigated this? Han Wulong, don't slander us. The faces of the ordinary elders of the imperial palace instantly turned red. Their eyes seemed to be looking at Palace Master Duanmu, afraid that Duanmu Xiaoman would suddenly explode. Duanmu Xiaoman leisurely turned around and looked at Han Wulong. Only Su-yi is allowed to crush others, but others are not allowed to gang up on him? Palace Master Duanmu, what do you mean by this? Han Wulong's face gradually darkened. The experts of the immeasurable sect behind him burst out with energy and stepped forward, their killing intent awe-inspiring. Duanmu Xiaoman's cold eyes flashed with a trace of coldness. She lightly opened her cherry lips and said, If Su-yi can't even pass such a small challenge, what's the use of keeping such a person? That's right. It's a chaotic battle to begin with. Han Wulong, don't only protect people from your own family. Humph, does the immeasurable sect like to fight one-on-one? If you think the Imperial Soul competition is child's play, then go home early. Don't embarrass yourself here. When the ordinary elders of the Arch-Fault Lake heard Duanmu Xiaoman's words, they immediately became arrogant and ridiculed Han Wulong in all sorts of ways. The energy around Han Wulong's body instantly surged. Boundless killing intent surged towards the disciples of the Imperial Soul Palace. Instantly, the disciples of the Imperial Soul Palace raised their eyebrows and swallowed a mouthful of saliva. The corner of Han Wulong's mouth twitched slightly. His eyes were filled with disdain as he softly said, Humph, trash. Then, Han Wulong walked to the side of Elder Gue and whispered, Senior Gue, what should we do? Gue, Long Pashan, Luowuya, and the others suddenly looked up at the light spot in the sky. Their hearts hardened as they said, Believe in Su-e. Gue Luowia Long Pashan, come here. Duanmu Xiaoman floated in the air at the edge of the cliff. Boundless soul pressure instantly began to tremble. There was a crisp sound in the air as the space was instantly torn apart. Boom! A thunderous sound resounded. A tear-shaped space crack instantly appeared. Duanmu Xiaoman's beautiful hair fluttered as she spoke to the three of them. I will leave everything here to you. You can handle everything properly. Then, Duanmu Xiaoman looked at the depths of the sea. There was a faint, intense energy fluctuation. Her eyes froze. Before she left, she sent a message to Gue. The Broken Sword Sea is not normal. I will go 20,000 meters first. Gue, you are the leader. So, a desolate spatial fluctuation condensed. Under the sharp aura, everyone's heart palpitated for no reason. As the beautiful figure dissipated, Long Pashan said to Gue, "What did the palace lord say to you?" Chapter 1651. Gue rubbed his chin and turned his attention back to the screen. His eyes were filled with solemnity. Since the palace master is not here, we will use the palace master's jade token as the focal point. Everyone, keep a close eye on every inch of the screen to ensure that the Imperial Soul Race goes on as planned. Gue ordered. Then, he took Han Wulong back and said in a low voice, "Sect Master Han, don't worry. Su-e won't be taken care of by these small fries. Let's wait and see." Han Wulong nodded slightly, recalling the words spoken by the few ordinary elders, and said in a ruthless tone, "Elder Gue, I'll listen to you. If those trash continue to speak, and Palace Master Duanmu is not here, I, Han Wulong, will immediately kill them." At this time, Long Pashan, Luoya, and a group of elders came to Gue's side with a serious expression. "Sect Master Han, please calm down. What happened? Why did Palace Master Duanmu suddenly leave?" Gue shook his head and thought about how Jun Haotian was the disciple who had dived the deepest. He said, "Palace Master went to 20,000 meters first. It seems that something strange happened at 20,000 meters. Is Jun Haotian okay?" On the screen, Jun Haotian had already dived to a depth of 8,000 meters and was going down at an extraordinary speed, leaving all the light spots behind him far behind. Haotian is still going. He's still in first place. Most of the alchemy and refining items are gathered at 3,000 to 4,000 meters, which is to be expected. But most of the Imperial Soul Race disciples are still stuck at 5,000 to 6,000 meters. It's a bit strange. Luoya looked at Gue, stroked his beard, and asked doubtfully, "There's no problem with the ranking, but the speed and depth of the Imperial Soul Race disciples are a bit strange." Long Pashan's eyes flashed with a strange light. "What's wrong, Elder Long?" Hearing this, Han Wulong was a bit surprised. His tall and sturdy body swayed, as if he also felt something strange at the bottom of the sea. "I can't say for sure, but other than refining souls and refining items, the disciples of Command Celestial Palace shouldn't be only 5 or 6,000 meters away right now." Long Pashan waved his sleeve, and his weathered face trembled. "Hiss!" Han Wulong frowned and flew to the light screen again. He stopped and looked at it carefully. Under the sea breeze, the light screen swayed back and forth in the sky like a piece of paper. Han Wulong studied the situation of the soul riding competition in front of him, then turned back and said to everyone, "Yes, it was just as Elder Long had said. Most of the people who control souls are only between 5 to 6,000 meters. As everyone knew, the amount of soul energy required for soul control was several times that of alchemy and equipment forging. Therefore, the depth of the Broken Sword Sea should be several times that of alchemy and equipment forging. 1 to 7,000 meters was the range for refining pills and weapons. Most people gathered at 3 to 5,000 meters, so there was nothing out of the ordinary. However, The rules of the soul riding competition stated that 7,000 meters was the range for the soul control battle. This was a bit strange. There are many direct disciples of our command celestial palace who went down. Could it be that they can only swim 5 or 6,000 meters? Not even 7,000 meters? Gyue was a bit puzzled. With this question in mind, all of the elders and teaching elders began to gather their soul energy and prepare. It seems that the palace lord was right. This is not normal. Everyone, get ready. Wait for the palace lord's order. Gyue ordered. Yes. All of the elders had serious expressions. They could already smell a trace of a bad signal in the air. Broken sword sea, 3 to 4,000 meters away. Bang bang bang. Sweet and fishy seawater constantly surged around. The continuous underwater explosions caused the command celestial palace disciples on both sides of the stage to be shocked. More than 10 people were besieging a white flood dragon. Sui was awe-inspiring on top of it. His soul aura covered the sky and earth as it swept over. It was a vast and mighty aura that caused the coral stones on the seabed to instantly shatter. This kind of shocking power couldn't be described with words. This Sui is too strong. I didn't see him use any soul skills, but he actually fought dozens of rounds with those people and had the upper hand. A command celestial palace disciple muttered softly, looking up from time to time. Don't look, hurry up and refine pills. Who is Sui? Who are you? Don't meddle in other people's business. A command celestial palace disciple reprimanded his colleague beside him. Whoa! The white flood dragon god's remnant soul was snow white. It was almost materialized as it spat out huge sonic attacks in the air. The violent ripples of energy rippled crazily as if they were real. Following the huge impact of the terrifying whirlpool, the destructive power of the broken sword sea caused fear in the hearts of the command celestial palace disciples. They couldn't help but stagger. Not good. The command celestial palace disciples raised their heads, but they only saw the white flood dragon god's enormous body in the air. It was like a heavy cannon that pressed down on the bodies of the command celestial palace disciples. Suddenly, the soul aura around the command celestial palace disciples shattered like a piece of paper. The earth-shattering aura and the white flood dragon god's enormous tail directly crushed all the rocks in the sea from 3 to 4,000 meters away. A huge sound rang out, and sand and stones filled the air. It was as if mountains and rivers had been overturned. The command celestial palace disciples were locked in place by the terrifying aura. They couldn't move, and the spiritual energy that was crushing on their bodies was instantly sucked in by the terrifying whirlpool. Sui, don't be too happy. We're only the first batch. There's still a large group of people behind, all waiting to catch you. You want to show off in our command celestial palace? No way. Ah, my leg. Let go of me, dragon. Sui, you bastard, you'll die a horrible death. Using our command celestial palace's mountain guardian god against us. Before he finished speaking, several fire dragon-like bolts had already formed in Sui's hands. They directly struck the command celestial palace disciples, causing them to cry out in pain. The pill refiners below were all shocked. They all lowered their heads, not daring to say anything. They didn't want to watch anymore. Bang bang. The Origin's supreme technique in his body circulated again. The peerless command celestial art also instantly filled the entire circle. Everyone in the circle had already witnessed the scene of Sui instantly killing everyone. They couldn't help but suck in a cold breath. Sui's body was surrounded by a violent and terrifying fire attribute energy storm. His body directly pounced out like a stream of light, instantly breaking through the air and arriving beside the command celestial palace disciples. In an instant, the blood-toothed shark that the command celestial palace disciples had drawn out had already turned into specks of light and dissipated. In the distance, Sui's gaze slightly fluctuated, revealing a trace of seriousness. Chapter 1652. Ah! Over 10 disciples of Command Palace cried out while holding their heads. How could they dare to speak? All of them panted heavily while revealing terror in their eyes. Who exactly ordered all of you to do this? Speak. Why did you ambush me? Sue gazed coldly at all of them who were already terrified out of their wits. No one ordered us to do this. If you want to blame someone, then blame yourself for showing off too much. You provoked everyone into telling us not to go down as soon as we entered the sea and to stay in the various circles to ambush you. This way, it would be easier for everyone to report back. What benefits does ambushing me bring to all of you? Su Yi's eyes surged with a cold light that carried a trace of surprise. Humph. And a fellow that doesn't know the immensity of heaven and earth. Command Palace only has Jun Haotian. If you were to obtain first, then where would Command Palace put its face? If Gyue and the others were allowed to continue gaining power, then Command Palace would only be replaced by Elder Wang, and it wouldn't benefit us at all. At the very least, we would be able to obtain some benefits if Zhuqiu Feng were to take charge. Since Gyue has taken charge, then mediocre people like us can only leave Command Palace. Jun Haotian should already be 8,000 meters away at this moment, and you'll never be able to catch up to him. One of the disciples of Command Palace laughed hysterically as he looked at Sue while adding insult to injury. Sue couldn't help but shake his head while feeling extreme disdain in his heart. This is the stupidity of a frog at the bottom of a well. Instead of thinking about strengthening yourself, you're spoiling the matters of others. Command Palace is only looked down upon by the Holy Mountain because of people like you. The current Command Palace doesn't just have Zhuqiu Feng, it has to be cleansed from top to bottom. Even ordinary disciples have started to lose their conscience. But with a quick thought, a trace of seriousness instantly flashed in Su Yi's deep eyes. It was normal for Jun Haotian to charge forward ferociously if he wanted to show off, but could it be that those personal disciples didn't want to show off as well? Would they destroy their own Rain Soul competition for the sake of paving the way for Jun Haotian? Someone is definitely lying. These disciples of Command Palace on the outermost layer are at most hired thugs. It's fine if it's a frog at the bottom of a well, but could it be that everyone is a frog at the bottom of a well? These words must be taught to these idiots. Sue thought to himself. Impossible, there must be a problem. Sue knew that he wouldn't be able to get anything out of these Command Celestial Palace disciples, so he didn't waste any more time. His gaze immediately darkened. Bang! Another wave of primitive Emperor Qi shot out from his hand, knocking out more than a dozen disciples on the spot. Sue climbed back onto the white flood dragon god's body, his eyes full of seriousness. After more than 10 breaths, Sue brought the 4 to the 4-kilometer and 5-kilometer areas. Here, the high ground on both sides had mysterious rank pills and weapons. Many disciples had already begun their training. As soon as they reached this area, Sue felt a monstrous force that caused his skin to hurt. The surrounding water pressure from the terrifying whirlpool also revealed a strange aura, directly condensing the ripples in space. When the water vapor passed through the whirlpool, it seemed to disappear without a trace. It was very strange. Sue turned around and immediately woke up Li Shiran, Tianwu, and the others. When they saw that they had reached the 4-kilometer and 5-kilometer areas, they couldn't help but be overjoyed. Big Brother Sue, so fast. We've reached the place. We can start refining pills soon. Li Shiran and Ah Chu's eyes were full of joy. Sue waved his hand and had the white flood dragon god lower its voice as much as possible. It quickly moved around the area quietly, trying not to make too much noise in the dark sea. Little White, hold on a little longer. We'll reach the place soon. Awo! The white flood dragon god let out a low cry as if to tell Sue that it couldn't hold on for much longer. Little White, what's wrong with him? Han Yuro looked at Sue with a serious expression. Sue looked at everyone with a solemn expression. He told them everything that had happened while they were meditating, as well as his own analysis. Everyone was furious. These people are really stupid. Is Jun Haotian a good person? Ah Chu was a little angry. Han Yuro and Tian Wu frowned. After pondering for a while, they said, no matter how Jun Haotian is, there must be a problem. So they are willing to not go down and intercept Su Yi here. Otherwise, do you think they are really so kind? To work for Jun Haotian? Tian Chong nodded and said, that's right. Whether it's Zhuoqiu Feng or our master, it has nothing to do with them. They just don't want to bear the reputation of running away from the battle. If they can't even reach 7 kilometers, wouldn't it be a big joke if this spread out? Li Shiran and Ah Chu understood at this time and said, so, Big Brother Su is just a cover. Ambushing Su Yi is to cover up the fact that they can't go 7 kilometers or reach the front. No matter what, we'll reach the place where we can refine pills soon. You guys refine the 9-turn dragon scalegrass and the mysterious grade weapon first. Leave the rest to me. Have you all recovered? The pressure from 4 kilometers to 5 kilometers was even more terrifying than the previous layers. However, in Su Yi's eyes, Li Shiran and Ah Chu's soul energy seemed to be more stable and condensed. There was no sign of weakening at all. He couldn't help but feel a little strange. Ah Chu said to Su Yi, Big Brother Su, we are fine. According to our Li family's method, we can get close to the surrounding water attribute very well. The water pressure is not a problem at all. But if we go down one more layer, I'm afraid the soul pressure won't be able to hold on. Good. In a while, Yuro and Tian Wu, you guys protect Li Shiran and Ah Chu. Su Yi originally thought that if the riding Heavenly Soul competition was normal, he would be safe and sound. He could just cultivate his own elixirs. Now it seemed that this was an extravagant hope. Big Brother Su Yi, you have to be careful when you go down, Li Shiran said softly. As soon as her voice fell, the speed of the white flood dragon god continued to accelerate. In the black tide that was like an eternal night, several people cut through the sea like streamers and went directly to the circle of light. Su Yi looked at the faintly discernible sea of broken swords below. His whole body was like duckweed, and the strength that was constantly sweeping in the air was constantly dissipating. Between the broken space ripples, the pitch-black vortex constantly whimpered in his ears. The demon soul of Tianyuan seemed to be responding, and suddenly a bloody chi rushed to his heart. The deeper we go, the more the soul pressure in the vortex can interfere with people's hearts. The pressure is also getting more and more powerful. Su Yi thought in his heart, and at the same time reminded Tian Wu and others to guard their minds. Bang! In an instant there was an explosion under the white flood dragon god's body. Suddenly, its body became a little staggered. Everyone's body collapsed, and they could feel that the white flood dragon god's abdomen had been hit hard. Chapter 1653. The sudden loss of balance caused everyone to turn pale with fright. Su Yi immediately released his soul pressure, stabilizing his body and the white flood dragon god at the same time. Whoosh! Using his spiritual sense to probe, his sharp eyebrows drooped, and the soul energy around him was as sharp as tentacles. In the blink of an eye, he could sense an extremely terrifying giant soul remnant nearby. Who is it? Get out here! Su Yi spoke harshly, a strong killing intent surging out. The newcomer wore a white robe and was followed by 4 people. His eyes were filled with shock as he looked at Su Yi. Very good, Su Yi. I thought you would be slower than I expected. It seems I still underestimated you. Those useless hearts in front. Senior brother Zi Feng told us to block Su Yi outside. He's not allowed to go below 7,000 meters. Senior brother, don't waste words with him. Hurry up and kill him. That way we can fulfill senior brother Zi Feng's promise. It turned out that the person in front of him was also a disciple of Heavenly Palace. The attack just now also came from one of these disciples. Zifeng? Is he very powerful? This was the first time Su Yi had heard this name. Suddenly, Tian Cheng's eyes flashed with killing intent as he whispered to Su Yi, Zifeng is the #1 disciple of Arch K Lake. His cultivation has already surpassed most of the direct disciples. He has always wanted to achieve something in the driver soul competition, but I didn't expect him to be the one behind it. But he can't go below 7,000 meters? Tian Cheng's eyes were filled with confusion. Hearing this, countless thoughts arose in Su Yi's mind. It seemed that the road ahead would be very difficult. Not only would there be the corrosion of soul pressure, there would also be countless obstacles. Before he could fulfill his promise with Jun Haotian and Duanmu Xiaoman, he would first have to defeat these disciples of Heavenly Palace. Then, Su Yi sneered, killing intent rising in his heart. Humph, I don't hate villains the most, but they're dogs. Don't be so arrogant, Su Yi, you little bastard. The leader of the Heavenly Palace disciples' souls surged as he called out from all directions. Instantly, 3 teams appeared from the back, left, and right. There were 4 teams in total, and all of them were soul controllers participating in the soul battle. They were all here to stop Su Yi. Behind each of them was an extremely terrifying remnant soul shadow. In an instant, they surrounded Su Yi and the others on the white flood dragon god. What do you want? Tian Cheng asked coldly. Tian, the Heavenly Palace disciple from before. If you want to refine, you'll have to pass us. The Heavenly Palace disciple from before. Tian Cheng abruptly raised his head. Instantly, the soul energy of the Imperial Celestial Palace disciples spread out and surrounded Tian Cheng and the others. And you want to attack your own brothers? Have you gone mad? Tian Cheng was furious. Looking at the high ground on both sides, some of the Heavenly Palace disciples who were focused on refining pills and refining tools were oblivious to what was happening above them. Tian Cheng's eyes almost popped out of their socket. Who ordered these people to do this? They actually dare to start a chaotic battle here. How audacious! Tian Ho roared angrily. Cold laughter rang out as the disciples of the command Heavenly Palace lured out dozens of savage remnant souls. The remnant souls' energy formed a huge energy vortex around them. Within the vortex, a huge pressure that could shake the heavens and earth spread out. In that instant, Su Yi commanded the white flood dragon god to tear a hole in the soul remnant array that was like an inescapable net. He turned into a white blur and charged out of the gap. Bang! Su Yi clenched his fists and his water attribute energy soared into the sky. The entire broken sword ocean ring shook violently as if there was an earthquake. The terrifying energy exploded and the ice crystals were like dragons. The unstoppable and terrifying water attribute energy directly froze the demonic beasts that were pouncing over. At the same time, it fiercely flew towards the Imperial Celestial Palace disciples. Chi-chi! The aqua-blue ice crystals extended for more than 100 feet in the dark broken sword sea before they finally stopped their attack. The huge space cracks in the sea cracked inch by inch, and then they sank together with the floating seaweed. Through the light of the ice crystals, the true appearance of the dozens of remnant souls could be seen clearly. They were iron-armored rhinoceroses with fierce eyes. Their huge iron hooves were like pillars that stomped on the entire broken sword sea. Unexpectedly, Su Yi actually tore apart the soul formation's encirclement and even dealt a fierce blow to the remnant soul. Heavenly Command Palace's disciples shouted in unison, Su Yi, you're courting death. The 20 people of the 4 teams changed their hand signs at the same time. With a light shout, the dark blue soul energy whirlpool behind them burst out. Tens of ferocious iron light water rhinoceroses, who had been roaring endlessly, abruptly stomped on the ground with their iron hooves, causing the entire ocean to surge out like an earthquake, fiercely sweeping towards Su Yi's direction. So. The monstrous power soared to the sky and brought countless water arrows with it. The blood-toothed shark just now was not on the same level as the iron-armored water rhinoceroses in front of them. Dozens of iron-skinned rhinoceroses were dark blue in color, and they roared. The giant horns on their heads were like heaven-piercing divine weapons, and their steel-like scales covered their bodies. Their huge bodies quickly closed in from all directions, causing the situation under the sea of broken swords to tremble and crack. Roar! Terrifying energy swept out again. The Heavenly Palace disciples urged their soul energy at the same time. The iron-armored water rhinoceroses let out a lulu-lulu sound in the water, then turned into a black shadow in the air. When they reappeared, they were already in front of Su-yi. The giant arrow-like iron horns once again surrounded Su-yi's white Jiao god. Suddenly, countless tens of meters wide space ripples appeared around Su-yi's body, spreading out at a speed visible to the naked eye. So fast! How can this big guy be so fast? Su-yi muttered to himself. He didn't expect that the iron-armored water rhinoceros's remnant soul with such a cumbersome appearance would rush over like lightning. Tian Wu and Han Yuro also didn't show any weakness. At the same time, two waterfalls shot out from their hands. The waterfalls were like dragons, carrying a majestic soul attack as they swept out and collided with the iron-armored water rhinoceros's scales. Dong dong! Suddenly, huge waves were set off around the original spot. But only a dull sound could be heard, and the iron-armored water rhinoceros's remnant soul didn't show any signs of slowing down. Han Yuro's eyes flashed with a trace of surprise. Her attack just now was like hitting a black iron rock. There was no reaction at all. Isn't this guy a remnant soul? Why is its physical strength so strong? Iron-armored water rhinoceros, the descendant of a great demon. Every remnant soul in front of us should be at the 8th level of the demon void realm. There's no need to think about their strength when they were alive. Every one of them is like a heavy armored tank. Chapter 1654. Su-yi calmly looked at the dozens of water rhinoceros remnant souls that were about to arrive. The 20 Heavenly Command Palace disciples in front of him were all at the high 3rd grade. This kind of lineup was already so difficult, going down would definitely be even more difficult. The Heavenly Command Palace disciples that were constantly rushing up and the broken sword sea that was gradually increasing the pressure, Su-yi felt a sense of danger. Su-yi knew that going down was not as simple as comparing who could swim deeper. Pung pung! Dozens of iron-light water rhinoceros bared their fangs and brandished their claws. Step by step, it was very rhythmic like a war chariot as it advanced towards Su-yi. An incomparably ferocious strength accompanied by a huge force tore through the seawater and then rushed towards the white flood dragon god in the center. Roar roar! A shocking roar erupted from its mouth and transmitted through the crack. Tian Ho and the others' vision suddenly blurred and their minds were shaken. This big guy can also use soundwave attacks. Li Shiran and Ah Chu both staggered back several steps. The pressure on their souls had clearly exceeded what they could bear. Let's end this quickly and eliminate these people and remnant souls. Let them start the competition as soon as possible. Su-yi thought in his heart. At the same time, Su-yi's expression was solemn. He did not retreat but instead advanced. His hands formed strange seals and countless extremely mysterious yuan qi light streaked across his body. Hoo-hoo! The art of controlling the heavens circulated like the wind. Just when it seemed like it was about to be trampled into meat paste by the water rhinoceros remnant soul, the entire white flood dragon god's monstrous strength surged. It jumped up like a spring and then jumped forward, once again dodging the fatal attack of the water rhinoceros remnant soul formation. Purring! White light flashed. The moment it jumped out, the white flood dragon god swung its long neck back. In the air, a sweeping soul pressure energy instantly gathered and formed the shape of a cannonball that directly hit the iron armor formation. The huge sound wave cannonball attack was like a heavy hammer, ruthlessly smashing into the iron armor. Countless iron armor sound waves suddenly dissipated like water bubbles. White light filled the sky and golden spears clashed. The remnant soul of the iron-armored water rhinoceros was instantly crushed by the monstrous power. The layers within the circle shook like mountains. The Jutian Palace disciples behind him all changed their expressions. They formed hand seals to stabilize the formation. Some of the weaker cultivators even staggered as blood spurted from their mouth. In an instant they were slapped into the air by the white flood dragon god's sudden attack, crashing into the high ground on both sides. Their eyes were filled with shock. Everyone looked up. Eyes. The white flood dragon god's remnant soul, aura. One red and one white, large and small in the spatial ripples that could be seen with the naked eye, were constantly refracting mystical light. What's going on? How did his body suddenly jump out of the remnant soul demon array with the white flood dragon god? Hanuro was shocked. She didn't understand what was going on. Tian Ho's eyes flashed with disbelief. He looked at Su Yi and could feel that Su Yi's soul aura had suddenly become extremely powerful. It was as if he had merged with the white flood dragon god. The result was that Su Yi's soul aura was instantly strengthened. The materialized white flood dragon god's soul was also much stronger than before. It was as if it hadn't been consumed at all. What is Su Yi doing? Hanuro cried out in shock. Tian Ho knew how powerful this was. He immediately made a shushing gesture, indicating for them to stop talking. The white flood dragon god emitted a dazzling soul aura. Then, the remnant soul began to shrink. A whoa! Accompanied by an ear-piercing dragon cry that rushed into the sky, the sea water shook. The entire 5-kilometer circle of broken sword sea shook, as if there was an earthquake. Tian Ho, Hanuro, and the others quickly jumped off the white flood dragon god's body and retreated. They stared blankly at Su Yi's strange transformation. On both sides of the high platforms, the disciples of Heavenly Palace were cultivating. They looked at the changes above their heads with ferocious expressions. They actually forgot about the pills they were refining. However, the invincible Su Yi seemed to have been prepared. At this moment, his entire body was enveloped by an extremely strange soul aura. The Tian Yuan demon soul was already like a small sun. It emitted an extremely terrifying radiance. It was filled with a terrifying soul aura. It was like an iron bucket that surrounded Su Yi. Tian Yuan demon soul, the white flood dragon god's power is mine. Su Yi roared in his heart. Su Yi had been at a disadvantage in terms of soul skills when he was in the 4-kilometer circle. He knew that he didn't have many soul skills. At that time, he had relied on his spiritual strength and the white flood dragon god's heroic performance to break out of the encirclement. During the process, Su Yi had been thinking about what soul skills he had. Which ones could he use in the upcoming competition? The first one that came to mind was the art of heavenly manipulation. This was a soul skill that cultivated spiritual energy. Any soul controller could condense a remnant soul and use their own strength to summon a demon or a martial artist with a remnant soul. This could be said to be the soul skill that Su Yi had grasped and used the most frequently. It could be said that it was a basic skill. Apart from this, the willpower that he comprehended through the nameless remnant sword art was also related to spiritual energy. When it was used on weapons like sabers and swords, it could produce an extremely terrifying attack. Next, the killing intent of the broken sword, the 10,000 demon god refining array, the blood phoenix split the heavens, and the phantom spirit world were extremely powerful. However, they couldn't be used in this place. They were soul skills that consumed a lot of spiritual energy. The gains didn't make up for the losses. They couldn't be used unless it was a critical moment. Finally, the Cloud Shadow Frost Steps was at most a martial skill that was activated by spiritual energy. It could reduce the pressure, but it couldn't truly suppress the enemy. When he broke through the circle of light again, Su-yi suddenly thought of the few god inheritances that he had. For example, the extremely fierce Emperor Sparrow Body fusion was a double suppression of spiritual and martial strength. Yes, Emperor Sparrow Body fusion. At this moment, Su-yi, who had already escaped, thought of the theory behind the Emperor Sparrow Body fusion. The corner of his mouth had already curled into a strange smile. He thought to himself, Emperor Sparrow Body fusion, there's no need to use a butcher's knife to kill a chicken. The Sky Demon Elephant is enough. The Sky Demon ancient scripture wasn't just a cultivation technique. It was also an all-encompassing technique. The first condition to cultivate it was that one had to be a soul controller. As someone who had gone through countless soul tempering before successfully cultivating it, Su-yi's usage of the Sky Demon Elephant had reached a new level after his soul was compatible with Ling Qianshue's. Chapter 1655. In the previous soul fusion, Su-yi needed to use the Heaven Origin Demon Soul to absorb Ling Qianxue. Then, with the help of the Sky Demon image, he could control it in reverse to achieve Ling Qianxue's goal and escape from the huge wooden pipe. But this time, the White Flood Dragon God was a remnant soul. By summoning the remnant soul and borrowing the Sky Demon image's perverse effects, not only could he use it, but he could also rely on Su-yi's control over the soul and his high soul quality to fuse the two together. This was the truly terrifying part of the Sky Demon image. After fusing with the Emperor Sparrow's bloodline, Su-yi used the Sky Demon image to temporarily fuse with the White Flood Dragon God. When the two fused, if one comprehended it properly, they would be able to obtain the remnant soul's power. In the future, there would be no need to summon the remnant soul, and they would be able to use the remnant soul's power directly. At this moment, Su-yi had become a remnant soul expert of the White Flood Dragon God. After fusing with the White Flood Dragon God, Su-yi discovered that the White Flood Dragon God actually had three outstanding innate abilities. The first was an incomparably powerful soul sound wave attack. He could feel it on the way and the terrifying whirlpool. The second was a soul pressure that far surpassed ordinary savage beasts. The White Flood Dragon God was originally a highly intelligent soul-type savage beast. Naturally, its pressure was peerless. The third was its incomparably fast speed. It was like the wind. The more abundant the soul energy in a place, the freer it would be. It is indeed rare to be able to bring us to the depths of the Broken Sword Sea after so many battles. The White Flood Dragon God is indeed extraordinary. Su-yi muttered in his heart. Su-yi was already very satisfied that the great guardian god that had been asleep for so many years could still be so powerful after being summoned by him. 1. In the time it took for a spark to fly off a flint, the shrinking White Flood Dragon God's light became extremely dim. The scales that were gradually materializing also fell off at a speed visible to the naked eye. Finally, the White Flood Dragon God turned into a small shadow in front of Su-yi and turned into a ball of white light that rushed towards the space between his eyebrows. The peculiar energy was like a spring breeze. Once again, Su-yi could feel the white light lingering around his pores. A peculiar soul fluctuation was surging in Su-yi's heart and soul. Su-yi's body was surrounded by sparkling rays of light. Visible to the naked eye, the fluctuations of light were filled with an ancient aura that could be traced back to ancient times. Rumble! An extremely strong soul pressure suddenly spread out around Su-yi. His heavenly origin demon soul immediately turned red and hot. The constantly rising temperature around him made Su-yi feel comfortable in the Broken Sword Sea for the first time. The water pressure and soul pressure didn't seem to exist. Su-yi walked as if he was walking on flat ground, as if he was bathing in the spring breeze. Chi-tian, this young man is very similar to you. After so many years, I hope he can lead me to you. A gentle sigh sounded in Su-yi's ears. The gentle voice echoed in Su-yi's ears. The graceful and elegant voice was like a leisurely chrysanthemum blooming in Su Yi's heart. Su Yi asked softly, "You are the White Flood Dragon God? Young man, your luck is very good. You actually have such a method. I am willing to hand over my innate ability to you." Following that, a light and lonely voice echoed in Su Yi's ears. "Young man, I hope you can comprehend the profound mysteries of the White Flood Dragon God race's divine power. I also hope you will not need to use it one day." The White Flood Dragon God did not reply. It was as if the energy that had been dormant in the Heaven Rider Creek for so many years was about to be used up. It was extremely weak. Profound mysteries? Su Yi immediately became suspicious. Could it be that the White Flood Dragon God is hiding something that it hasn't passed to him? What is it? Come back. Buzz! Su Yi was anxious. A white light flashed, and he returned to the real world. In his mind there was a ball of soul light that was like a sun. The light became more and more dazzling. Suddenly, a dragon's cry came from within his body. The soul light filled Su Yi's heavenly origin demon soul and turned into a small ball of the White Flood Dragon God's light pattern. Suddenly, everyone noticed Su Yi's strange change. The White Flood Dragon God's remnant soul phantom had disappeared, and the soul fluctuations around Su Yi's body rippled like divine splendor. A brilliant and dazzling white light radiated from his body. His aura was astonishing, and his soul energy was monstrous. The vast pressure was even more terrifying than the pressure of the broken sword sea. Immediately, everyone within 5,000 meters was shocked. An innate tyrannical and destructive soul energy filled the area. Everyone couldn't help but tremble, wanting to submit. At this moment, only Su Yi could feel that his soul energy was abundant. The information given to him by the White Flood Dragon was also constantly revolving in Su Yi's mind. Within the White Flood Dragon God's power, there were 3 innate abilities that corresponded to 3 soul skills. The White Flood Dragon God's power originally had an extremely terrifying soul pressure. In addition to the 3 soul skills, the sound wave attack, the soul pressure that changed according to the form, and the extreme speed change made Su Yi's eyes light up. He couldn't help but be overjoyed. At this moment, Su Yi was immersed in a state of enlightenment. His eyes were closed, and the soul energy around him was constantly expanding. It gradually turned into a vortex that no one could approach. Behind him, Tian Ho and Li Shiran had been watching Su Yi's constantly changing soul pressure since they fell from the White Flood Dragon God's body. They were shocked. Early 4th rank? How did his soul energy increase so much? Han Yuro's eyes were full of shock. Tian Ho's face was also full of disbelief. Su Yi's sudden violent aura was too strange. He whispered, "Su Yi seems to have fused with the White Flood Dragon God." The White Flood Dragon God was an ancient soul remnant, and had an extremely strong soul pressure. Tian Ho, Han Yuro, and the others were a little dazed. They slowly said, "Su Yi's aura seems to be getting stronger and stronger." After that, Su Yi's soul pressure began to spread. The White Flood Dragon God's power combined with the driving heaven art. Immediately, an early 4th rank soul pressure fluctuated in the air. Bang! "Those who stand in my way die." Su Yi's eyes suddenly opened. Between sinking and releasing, there was a burst of light that was breathtaking. The driving Heaven Palace disciples below him were the first to show killing intent. They weren't just trying to stop him, so Su Yi wouldn't be merciful. Immediately, the driving Heaven Palace disciples, standing on top of the iron-armored rhinoceros soul remnant, were terrified. The team that had been smashed into pieces began to sway, and they began to drive the iron-armored rhinoceros to turn back. Awo! The huge iron-armored rhinoceros body was several hundred meters long. For a moment, all the driving Heaven Palace disciples were stuck together, unable to turn back. Did he comprehend something? How did he suddenly reach early 4th rank? The driving Heaven Palace disciples looked at the extremely strange Su-yi, their phantoms shaking. Inexplicably, their hearts trembled for no reason. Looking at Su-yi, who was like a soul god descending, their souls had already begun to submit. Chapter 1656. Many obscure auras began to twist in the air. Su-yi's body was already filled with soul energy. With the help of the white flood dragon's power, it instantly spread out. Su-yi roared in his heart. Illusory Sky White Dragon Classic. This was the name Su-yi gave to the white flood dragon's power. It meant that with the power of the heavens, he could use the white flood dragon's power to change freely. It was unparalleled in the world. Unparalleled Dragon Flash. Activating the white flood dragon's power, the third move's speed change was very convenient for Su-yi, who was at the beginning stage of the fourth rank. Whoosh whoosh. A strange light flashed around the Heaven Origin Demon Soul. Then, 3 soul doppelgangers broke out of the body with monstrous soul energy. The majestic soul ripples instantly enveloped the entire 5-kilometer radius. It became extremely terrifying. Compared to the usual martial technique doppelgangers, these were more direct and more terrifying soul doppelgangers. The 3 soul doppelgangers and Su-yi's own Heaven Origin Demon Soul all had extremely terrifying soul energy. They were not just simple doppelgangers. They were all real existences. Soul doppelgangers. How can Su-yi have soul doppelgangers? Tianwu and Han Yuro's jaws drop. How did Su-yi do soul doppelgangers that are only at the middle stage of the 5th rank? The Commandant Palace disciple was shocked. Looking at the 4 soul doppelgangers condensing, 4 Su-yi's silhouettes with flowing hair, he was like a god. His vision turned black. Sister, is this the ultimate level of Cloud Shadow Frost? It doesn't look like it. The soul energy is so strong. Achu was even more incredulous. Legend had it that when the Li family's Cloud Shadow Frost reached the final level, it was a true body doppelganger. It could transform into countless martial artists' doppelgangers at the same time and attack the enemy together, creating a sky full of doppelgangers. No, Brother Su is a soul doppelganger. Li Shiran was stunned. The Su-yi in front of her was too unbelievable. Compared to Cloud Shadow Treading Frost, Soul Doppelganger was much more difficult. Although there were only 4 of them, this was a mid-tier 5th grade skill. Su-yi's use of it was too shocking. The sudden surge of soul energy and the Soul Doppelganger, the fourfold Su-yi was simply too strange. Li Shiran didn't know what else couldn't happen to him. 4 Su-yi's soul avatars stood on the ground, facing the enemies of Heavenly Command Palace in 4 different directions. Early stage level 4 Origin Emperor was equivalent to level 1 to level 3 Origin Emperors, but to these mid and high stage level 3 Origin Emperors, it was already a crushing force. The crushing of the soul quickly made the aggressive Heavenly Command Palace disciples piss their pants in terror. Boom! Immediately, the light in Su-yi's eyes flickered. 4 soul shadows instantly rushed out, covering the sky and earth with soul energy. The soul waves were like light ribbons that surrounded the Heavenly Command Palace disciples. The Heavenly Command Palace disciples who already had thoughts of retreating didn't dare to continue fighting, but it was already too late. After violently shaking off the spatial ripples, their souls were instantly locked onto by Su-yi. As if they saw an ancient divine beast, their eyes were filled with fear. In an instant, Su-yi's face sank. His figure moved, and the 4 soul shadows formed hand seals at the same time like flowing light. An extremely dazzling soul energy bombarded the 4 directions. Boom! The 4 surging soul doppelganger fiercely pressed forward. Before they could even make a sound, the soul energy urged by the white flood dragon god's power seemed to have absorbed their souls. All of the Heavenly Command Palace disciples' souls shook. Immediately, their faces turned pale, and they crazily fell down like birds with broken wings. Ah! Bang bang bang! Rocks were shattered, and the sea water was turbulent. Boundless sand surged, and soon, the heavenly command palace disciples were buried deep in the high ground, unable to be more thoroughly dead. Su Yi's disheveled hair fluttered in the wind, accompanied by Tian Tian's soul energy fluctuations. He was like a domineering soul sovereign looking disdainfully at everyone. At this moment, Su Yi truly felt the terror brought about by the suppression of soul energy. It was a kind of pleasure and satisfaction that came from completely suppressing others. Su Yi's eyes dimmed with disdain as he looked at the withered disciples of Juntian Palace. They were like lifeless flowers, seawater, and dead objects that had lost their luster. What a strong soul suppression! Their souls have already been sucked dry. The heavenly command palace disciples on the high ground on both sides trembled, afraid that Su Yi would notice them. Behind them, those who had personally witnessed Su Yi's might were so shocked that they couldn't speak. A high-tier royal-grade soul skill. Su Yi. Could it be a high-tier soul skill? Is it a heaven-grade soul skill? Tian Ho was so excited that he couldn't speak coherently. His eyes were full of excitement. Whoosh! In an instant, the soul pressure disappeared like a gust of wind. Immediately, the entire solidified sea began to flow, and the earth-shattering pressure dissipated. Su Yi retracted his hand seals, and the soul energy dissipated. He was extremely satisfied. The first time he used the White Flood Dragon God's power, it had such an effect. A high-tier royal-grade soul skill? Su Yi didn't know, but after fusing with the White Flood Dragon God's power, Su Yi had fused the 3 innate characteristics of the White Flood Dragon God. It could be said that it was a soul skill that he had created himself. As for whether it was a high-tier royal-grade soul skill, Su Yi didn't know. Turned out that soul skills were the same as martial skills. They were divided into mortal grade, good grade, general grade, commander grade, king grade, royal grade, and heaven grade. Su Yi could only feel that the White Flood Dragon God wasn't an ordinary vicious beast that had been passed down since ancient times, and the soul skill it comprehended was also a soul skill. Compared to the royal grade martial skills he had, this illusory heaven White Dragon God's canon could be compared to his heavenly origin demon scripture. More importantly, the illusory heaven White Dragon God's canon seemed to have other effects that he hadn't comprehended yet. Su Yi thought to himself that his soul cultivation wasn't high enough. I don't know. Su Yi chuckled and then muttered to himself. This was the first time he had comprehended the peerless dragon flash, and he could actually create 4 soul avatars. It was simply too strong. If his soul power increased by another level, the peerless dragon flash would be even more terrifying. The other 2 moves should be stronger than the peerless dragon flash. This time, Su Yi had picked up a treasure, and he was unable to contain his joy. The White Flood Dragon God was talking about the mysteries of the White Flood Dragon God's race. What's that? Su Yi was a little confused. Do you know what characteristics the White Flood Dragon God has? Su Yi asked Tian Ho. Tian Ho was well versed in the Tao of alchemy. After thinking for a while, he said to Su Yi, the White Flood Dragon God is a vicious beast that has been passed down since ancient times. It's rumored that its scales can be used in medicine. It has an extremely strong corrosive effect, but I don't know anything else about it. That's not right, but it's not bad to know that spiritual pressure has a corrosive effect. Su Yi looked up and said, and it seems like I'll have to wait until the right time to find out. This illusory heaven White Dragon God's canon is my first official soul skill. Afterwards, Su Yi's fighting spirit and fury continued to rise. He looked down at the endless sea of broken swords and whispered, Zifeng? Jun Haotian? Wait for me. Chapter 1657. With that, the disciples on both sides attracted Su Yi's attention. He leisurely flew towards the high ground nearby. Su Yi, what are you doing? The disciples of Drive Heaven's palace trembled, and some of them even dropped the pills in their hands. Their legs went soft and they fell to the ground. What do you think I'm doing? Was the show good? Su Yi's lips curled into a smile. These Jushen Palace disciples, when their lives were hanging by a thread, didn't care about anything and just watched as he, Tian Ho, and the others were slaughtered. According to Su Yi's temperament, he absolutely wouldn't let such people go. Su Yi, forget it. They are still disciples of Drive Palace. You've already killed many of them. Tian Wu walked over. He knew that if he didn't stop this, Su Yi would definitely go on a killing spree and dye the Sea of Swords red with blood. These were all excellent disciples of Drive Palace. If they all died to Su Yi, not to mention the soul competition, everyone would be unlucky. At that time, it wouldn't be easy to clean up the mess. Su Yi raised his brows and stared at the frightened disciples with disdain. You think you're worthy of being a disciple of Heavenly Palace? Take out all the best alchemy ingredients you have on you. The commanding Heavenly Palace disciple's face turned ashen as he hesitated. Even if he didn't kill, it was still good to collect some interest. Su Yi wasn't someone who would leave no traces behind. A sinister smile appeared on his face. Everyone, protect your senior brother Tian Wu. If anyone dares to cause trouble and you still dare to sit by, the first ones I'll kill will be you. Boom! Su Yi's murderous intent was apparent. A blue ray shot out from his right hand. The pill cauldron emitting a blue flame immediately condensed into ice crystals. It was a terrifying scene. Hiss hiss. Su Yi's frightening aura caused all of the disciples to gasp. They immediately offered all kinds of ingredients and pill cauldrons. Seeing these lackeys, they couldn't help but sigh. Just now, the White Flood Dragon God also mentioned Qing Tian. This Duanmu Qing Tian seems to be an incredible mission. When the time comes, I must ask Duanmu Xiaoman about the senior below the cliff. Tian Wu, Han Yuro, Li Shiran, Ah Chu, and the others received the items handed over by the Jutian Palace disciples. They couldn't wait to form hand seals. Their hands were constantly changing. Fire, earth, and metal elemental lights spun out and constantly added to the alchemy furnace. Boom boom boom. On Tian Ho's side, he had already set up a furnace, lime, and other things. He was looking for the materials needed to refine weapons from his interspatial bag. On the side, Li Shiran took a deep breath and took out a furnace. The purple light instantly illuminated the entire broken sword sea. Ah Chu was shocked and said, "Sister, that's not it. Purple flame sun cauldron." Swish. Swish. Hearing Chu's words, all eyes gathered on Li Shiran's hand in an instant. Then, they turned their eyes away, not daring to look anymore. Such a performance made Su Yi nod his head in satisfaction. It seemed that the lesson he gave to the Jutian Palace disciples just now was effective. With Su Yi's demonstration, Li Shiran, Tian Wu, and the others could refine alchemy weapons in peace. No one would disturb them. This was the best and also what Su Yi wanted to see the most. Yes, yes. Chu, brother Su just gave this to me. No wonder you and brother Su were whispering for a long time. Chu laughed. Shiran, don't let me down. I'll leave the 9-turn dragon scale grass to you. Su Yi walked over and said to Li Shiran. The 9-turn dragon scale grass could be refined into a 9-turn spirit refining pill. It had an extremely important auxiliary effect for a half-step Origin Emperor to break through to the Origin Ancestor realm. It also had a chance to evolve into the divine spiritual veins. What kind of magical elixir was this? Li Shiran's thoughts were self-evident. Don't worry, Su Yi. The materials you gave me, whether it's for alchemy or refining medicine, are all top-notch. We'll do our best. Tian Wu smiled foolishly. Now, he admired Su Yi from the bottom of his heart. Without Su Yi, they wouldn't have been able to reach this place, and they wouldn't have had any hope of winning the 4 first places. Good. You guys hurry up. I'm going down too. Su Yi's eyes darkened. Then you must be careful. I'm afraid that it'll be unusual if we go down. Okay, you guys take care too. Miss Yuro, you take care too. Su-e looked around and glanced at Han-Yuro. Han-Yuro immediately lowered her head. In fact, she really wanted to go with Su-e. When she raised her head, Su-e had already activated the illusory sky-white dragon book. His speed was raised to the extreme and he rushed deeper into the circle with a big stride. Then, Tianwu was ready and everyone started to refine their items. At this point, the escort work had come to an end. For Su-e, it was time for the real Imperial Soul Race. The show has officially begun. Looking at Su-yi's back that was already far away, Tian Cheng's eyes shone brightly. Han-Yuro didn't say the last sentence as she pursed her lips from time to time. Su-yi's innate charm and the miracles that erupted from time to time made Han-Yuro more and more unable to understand this man. Her thoughts about this man also became deeper and deeper. Li Shiran and Ah Chu glanced at Han-Yuro and smiled. They began to cultivate intensely. Only the disciples of Imperial Soul Palace were still discussing in low voices. This Su-e is probably a freak. Even the siege of 20 people can't do anything to him. And he's doing it so easily. I really want to see the battle between him and senior brother Jun Haotian. It must be extremely shocking. Han-Yuro restrained her expression and her eyes regained their sharpness. Since Su-e wanted the 9 Revolution God refining pill, Han-Yuro was determined to do it for Su-e. Moreover, she couldn't afford to lose. What are you looking at? Assist us well. Otherwise we'll take your lives. Ever since he had obtained the White Flood Dragon God's strength, the deeper he went in this vast sea of broken swords, the heavier the pressure on his soul was no longer uncomfortable for Su-e. His breathing was steady, just like he was on land. Su-e couldn't help being overjoyed. This time he had really picked up a huge treasure. Kid, don't be so arrogant. The White Flood Dragon God is the descendant of a soul-type ancient vicious beast. Therefore, the stronger the soul pressure in the space, the more obvious it is. Su-yi's figure moved like lightning, making his body constantly empty. In a breath's time, he had rushed 100 meters away. What do you mean? What I mean is that in places where the soul pressure is not enough, the White Flood Dragon God's power is not necessarily more useful than an ordinary royal-grade martial skill. Su-yi nodded when he heard this. No matter what, this was his first soul skill, and it would be of great use in this place. Right, the White Flood Dragon God's power seemed to have corroded the souls of those Imperial Soul Palace disciples. That strange light of yours seems to be able to absorb souls for your own use. Why didn't you use it? The Iron Soulfish, who hadn't appeared for a long time, looked at Su-yi. Chapter 1658. Su-yi said as he walked, "Are you talking about the Heaven Origin Demon Soul?" The Heaven Origin Demon Soul was the second level of the Origin Demon Body. It could absorb all kinds of souls, be it human or savage beast, and refine them with the Origin's supreme art to strengthen and temper the soul. No. If it was a group of human souls that I needed to increase my soul energy, I would have absorbed them without hesitation. But if it was a complete soul, it wouldn't feel good to be sucked dry like that. Su-yi said. Soft-hearted. Demons don't care about that. They've already killed, so why bother? As long as there's evil, they have the right to take everything away. You're helping them. The Iron Soulfish rolled its eyes. So, you're a demon, and I'm a human. Su-yi's footsteps were like the wind. Soon, he saw the 6-kilometer circle. In fact, Su-yi would never have thought that he would make a completely different choice from today. 10,000 skeletons, all for one person to absorb the souls of the world. The Iron Soulfish looked at Su-yi. It was already used to Su-yi's good luck, so it continued to speak. Brat, your luck is really good. Even the little White Flood Dragon can pledge allegiance to you. However, compared to the White Flood Dragon clan, our demon clan's talent and means are much higher. Moreover, with your perception, after you comprehend it, maybe the legendary God-slaying demon attracting secret technique will be yours. After hearing this, Sui was immediately delighted. He said, I don't need to think about this demon attracting secret art. You mean to say that I should absorb you first? The iron soulfish spat and angrily said, Absorb me? You want to die from overeating? This sect master has 10,000 years of cultivation. Sui immediately smiled and said, Yeah, I have a 10,000-year-old thing living in my body. What's there to be afraid of? Boom. After pondering for a bit, Suyi's soul energy quickly surged. He took a step forward and entered the 6-kilometer to 7-kilometer circle. Sui. It's Sui. Hula! The soul energy vortex that filled the sky smashed into Suyi's body, and with a wung sound, Suyi's white flood dragon god's strength surged, repelling the soul energy vortex like a tidal wave. His figure flashed like lightning, and with a single leap, Sui appeared in another place, followed by another group of people. Monstrous soul energy accompanied by brutal beast phantoms stared at Sui. Looking at the dense crowd, Sui softly said, This is really troublesome. There are so many of them. They're all treasures. Aren't you going to take a bite? The iron soulfish teased Sui. Bang! A wave of primordial chi passed through the wide divine spiritual veins, and like a whip, it heavily struck the entrance gate. Immediately, an extremely loud and clear cry of pain resounded from Suyi's body. Motherf asterisk cur Sui, try and hit me again. Suyi's lips curled into a smile. I'll let you see clearly how I clean up the trash. Boom. Primordial chi gathered under his feet, and the peerless dragon flash was activated again. For soul phantoms appeared with the wind, and immediately, a terrifying soul energy surged from all directions. Broken Sword Sea, High Cliff. Duanmu Shaoman had been in the sea for a long time, and the anxious elders were pacing back and forth on the high cliff. The vassal elders and teaching elders were clenching their fists, and their faces were filled with anxiety. Long Pashan was immediately enraged. You stinking brats, if you dare to walk around in front of me again, I'll break your legs. Chi. The high cliff suddenly quieted down, and the vassal elders whispered, Elder Long, Big Brother Long. Many of our disciples are also down there. Yes, the palace master went down, and there's no news at all. This is not good news. As soon as the words came out, everyone began to complain, and wanted to jump down immediately to see what was going on. Here it comes again. I'm so annoyed. Gyue, what do you think we should do? Long Pashan turned to look at Gyue, who was in front of the light screen. Han Wulong was arguing with Gyue, and when he saw the 10 or 20 dots of light surrounding Sui again, he angrily whispered, Which bastard is blocking my daughter and son-in-law? Son-in-law? Gyue narrowed his eyes and snickered at Han Wulong. No. It's Sui, that brat. This 5-kilometer area is where they refine pills, and there are actually people causing trouble here. They must be tired of living. Gyue stroked his beard, and suddenly, his eyes lit up, and he said to the light screen, No, these dots of light are disappearing. So fast. So fast. Han Wulong quickly went up to take a look, and found that Suyi's dots of light were diving down at an unbelievable speed. Elder Gyue, isn't the pressure stronger the further down he goes? How can Sui be so fast? Hiss! This brat is really something. I don't find anything strange about him. Ha ha ha. That group of disappearing light spots were probably beaten down by Su brat. Kill them all, how dare you bully me, Han Wulong. Sui, well done. Han Wulong laughed and immediately attracted the attention of all the elders. Han Wulong, what did you just say? Say it again. The elders were filled with righteous indignation, and the soul energy in their hands blossomed with dazzling light as they faced Han Wulong. Buzz. Golden dragon shakes the heavens, and a golden dragon mark began to spread from Han Wulong's body. The monstrous pressure of a 6th-level Yuan ancestor realm quickly condensed as he spoke to the crowd. What? You want to block my daughter, block Su-yi, and block me from above? Come on. Fight. Han Wulong roared, and his voice shook the heavens. The flying beasts in the distance immediately flew away. 5,500 meters. 6,000 meters. 6,000 meters. Luo Wuya asked everyone to stop fighting. He pointed at the light and said, Su-yi has already reached 6,000 meters. 7,000 meters is a threshold. Everyone, stop fighting. When Su-yi reached 6,000 meters, dozens of dots of light once again surrounded him. Han Wulong's killing intent rose again. Do you still need to say it? There must be something fishy going on below. Otherwise, why are they always trying to block Su-yi? After being beaten down by Su-yi, they still have the nerve to bare their fangs and brandish their claws here. Shameless old things. At that moment, the group of ordinary elders were embarrassed. However, facts spoke louder than words, and they couldn't defend themselves. Luo Wuya said, Palace Master is already below. Moreover, the disciples of our elders are also below. Do we also want to kill Su-yi? Everyone, don't panic. The truth will come to light. Haotian has already reached 12,000 meters. Gyua looked at the light screen. Can he reach 15,000 meters? All the elders were looking forward to it. Jun Haotian, who had taken the lead, actually had such courage and performance. It had exceeded many people's expectations. Chapter 1659. He's much stronger than his master, Zhuqiu Feng. Elder Vassal sighed. Humph! If it weren't for those bastards blocking the way, Zhuqiu Feng's disciple wouldn't have been able to gain face. Han Wulong stood up and looked at the light spots on the screen. He instantly fell into deep thought and thought, it seems that I have to go in and save Su-yi. 6,000 meters. After a fierce battle, all the Yutian Palace disciples had been beaten to the ground. 7,000 meters was a threshold. 7,000 meters was a threshold. So many people couldn't go beyond 7,000 meters. There had to be something there. In the distance, a few Yutian Palace disciples were lying on the ground. Their attire was clearly different from the Arch K Lake disciples. They had a high status and seemed to be at the high 3rd rank. Are you Su-yi? Asked a pale-faced disciple whose soul had been severely injured. Su-yi looked and asked in a deep voice, Your elder vassal's disciples? The disciples nodded and said, Zifeng has already turned into a demon below 7,000 meters. Su-yi, don't go there. What's going on? When we first arrived here, Zifeng led a group of Arch K Lake disciples to surround and attack us. He didn't let us go beyond 7,000 meters. According to the Arch K Lake disciples, Zifeng's cultivation has improved greatly recently. He's very demonic. Jun Haotian took the lead, which made Zifeng very angry. He ordered all the Arch K Lake disciples to block us 7,000 meters away while he chased after Jun Haotian alone. Pfft! Just as he finished speaking, several of the Imperial Heavenly Palace disciples fainted. With his soul probing, Su-yi was able to discover that everyone's hearts and souls had already suffered severe injuries. Demon? Where's the demon? Why didn't I see it? The iron soulfish narrowed its eyes. It didn't feel anything wrong from the moment it entered. But the deeper we go, the more obvious the soul pressure and murderous aura in the air vortex are. Looks like there's a problem. Let's go take a look, said the soul puppet. Whoosh! As the white flood dragon's soul power erupted once more, Su-yi's disheveled hair fluttered in the wind. His entire body's aura had already reached an extremely sensitive state. The deeper they went, the more tranquil and mysterious the sea of broken swords became. Tiny remnant souls floated around, as if it was hell for remnant souls. The energy of the remnant souls here was too shocking. Could it be that something had happened here in the past? For there to be such a strong baleful aura, there must have been an extremely fierce battle here. Who knows? That broken sword mountain is the best proof, the iron soulfish said. At the thought of this, the heavenly origin demon soul within Su Yi's body continued to emit a dazzling light. As far as the eye could see, there was an endless sea of broken swords. At the bottom of the deep sea, Su Yi's eyes darkened. Like a broken sword, he cut across the sky and immediately increased his speed. From afar, he could see the 7-kilometer circle flickering with fluorescent light in front of Su Yi. Outside the circle, there were small circles of light. It was pitch black. After 7 kilometers, there were no more disciples from the Jushen Palace. Su Yi could also unleash the speed of the white flood dragon god to his heart's content. Like a hot knife through butter, he galloped freely in the sea of broken swords. 8 kilometers. 9 kilometers. 10 kilometers. Boom. Su Yi immediately felt that the seawater around him had become extremely heavy. If it wasn't for the white flood dragon god's soul's pressure, Su Yi would have already died from his meridians exploding. At 10 kilometers, the surrounding energy gradually turned into a bloody crimson color. Within the pitch-black space, there were scarlet spatial cracks that were at least 1,000 meters long. Looking from afar, the entire 10,000-meter circle was filled with long blood-red lines like banners. The spatial vortex also gradually began to spew out huge waves that were as red as blood. No wonder they couldn't come in. The pressure after 7 kilometers is already not something a 4th-level origin emperor can withstand, Su Yi thought to himself. Following Su Yi's words, the iron soulfish said with a serious expression, "It's been a long time since I've felt such a pure baleful aura and resentment. It seems that what those brats said makes sense. But it doesn't feel like a demon either." The entire crimson sea of broken swords was very quiet. Su Yi's body was getting heavier and heavier. He could feel the pressure on his body like steel. Su Yi couldn't imagine how Jun Haotian had reached such a depth. If it was just himself, Su Yi would have a whole new level of respect for Jun Haotian. Could it be some kind of demon? Su Yi frowned. Demon? What kind of demon's blood can spread 10 kilometers? And in such a pressurized sea? Even I might not be able to do it, the iron soulfish said softly. Su Yi's eyes shone with a mysterious light. He shook the Origin Supreme technique in his hand and secretly activated the art of driving the heavens. At this moment, his body was already surrounded by an imperceptible halo of energy. Su Yi roared, "I don't care if it's a demon or a demon, I'm going to do it today. Charge!" Whoosh! The sea water rippled and thunder exploded. 10,000 meters below, the huge sonic boom was like a clap of thunder, exploding the blood-red ocean. Countless terrifying strength chis were pushed to both sides by Su Yi, and the strength chis shattered the space in front of him, causing red ripples to spread out in circles. Su Yi took a big stride forward and took a deep breath. His body was like a sharp sword as he flew down again. After a few breaths, Su Yi could feel that he had broken through to 11,000 meters. He couldn't help but feel puzzled. I've already reached 11,000 meters. Why haven't I seen Zifeng and Jun Haotian yet? There were still floating crimson threads around him. Some plankton that should have existed in the deep sea had also turned crimson. Forget it, let's keep going. With doubts in his mind, Su Yi continued to increase the speed of the white horn to the maximum. After another few hundred meters, Su Yi became more and more frightened. Looking at the continuous expansion of the sea on both sides, there were even cracks that were dozens of meters long in some places, like ravines. Many huge corpses of underwater barbaric demon beasts were floating with the sea water. A murderous aura was visible to the naked eye. Su Yi immediately crouched down and spread out his soul sense. In an instant, the entire area of 11,000 meters was covered. "There are traces of a battle here," the soul puppet said. "Yes. These corpses don't seem to be formed by a battle. Su-yi carefully observed the direction of the corpses around him. Circle after circle. The deeper we go, the thicker the blood aura. Kid, don't you think this is some kind of ceremony or the opening of something? The soul puppet had also realized the seriousness of the situation. Usually, such thick blood aura could only be preserved in a place as deep as the Broken Sword Sea. If it was any other place, it would have attracted attention. The immeasurable sect or the heavenly palace would have sent experts to check it out. How could such a thing happen? Chapter 1660. Phew! If it's not someone playing tricks down there, then there must be something. Su-yi's eyes darkened as he looked up at the Broken Sword Sea that he could no longer see the top of. The blood-red sky shone in all directions. Flickering lights and passing shadows filled the air, and there was a fishy smell everywhere. The whimpering sound of bubbles was also like the dangerous aura of 10,000 ghosts crying at the same time. The originally unclear bottom of the sea was filled with a kind of murderous and scarlet aura, invisibly adding a kind of chilling feeling to people. If there was really something, Duanmu Xiaoman would definitely know. Su-yi's eyebrows tightened even more. White light surged around his body again, and with a majestic speed, he rapidly descended, like a stream of light sprinting downwards. He flew rapidly towards the circle of light that was gradually turning dark red. Dusk covered the sky, and the entire space was filled with the color of blood. In an instant, a fine silk-like stream of light streaked across the sky, as if breaking through the darkness before dawn. 12,000 meters. Su-yi finally broke through to 12,000 meters. As soon as he arrived at the new circle, the meridians and bones in his body seemed to be filled with blood qi. In front of him, he seemed to see a huge scarlet flower in full bloom. The enchanting branches entwined, and the clouds between heaven and earth were reflected in red. Su-yi, who was not used to it, almost fell down. As he staggered, Su-yi opened his eyes again. He could see a pair of huge blood-red eyes like a dragon's eyes in the air. Upon closer inspection, it was glaring at him with a murderous look. When their eyes met, Su-yi could not help but gasp. What kind of illusion is this? It's so powerful. Su-yi's eyebrows twitched. A huge suppressive force spread out in waves in Su-yi's body. The blood-red power was imposing, as if it was going to devour him into pieces at any time. Standing in the blood-red sky, Su-yi's messy black hair fluttered freely, and a throbbing expression appeared on his determined and mature face. Ugh! Su-yi let out a painful groan that sounded like his soul was about to explode. Brat, calm your mind. The seawater here can already confuse your mind. Activate all of your martial arts. The iron soulfish roared loudly in the entryway. Looking at the surrounding environment that was like a blood pool, Su-yi instantly felt as if he had fallen into a bloody feast. The misty sky and chaotic scene before his eyes made Su-yi feel as if he had fallen into a dream. His whole body floated like a floating plant without a foundation. In an instant, Su-yi, who was in a daze, tried to protect his mind. His expression changed slightly. He could clearly feel that his heavenly origin demon soul was being suppressed to a certain extent. Within his slightly turbid eyes, Su-yi's tiger-like eyes trembled as he straightened his expression. At this moment, Su-yi did not dare to be careless. With a thought, he closed his eyes and the vital qi in his body surged out from the great void ocean. He allowed his vital qi to circulate as he felt the changes in the laws of space around him. Hiss, hiss! The vital qi in his meridians flowed like a great river towards the heavenly origin demon soul wave after wave, ensuring that the heavenly origin demon soul's radiance would not dissipate. He heard the boundless energy in the surrounding space move like a whirlpool. The astonishing sound of bubbles was like the sonorous sound of wind and thunder. Roar, roar! Su-yi, who was being crushed, held on to the last bit of intelligence and soul in his body. His hand seals changed constantly, and the Origin Supreme technique swept out in an instant. The seawater roared and the space trembled. The boundless energy tore the space apart in an instant. Within the blood-colored killing intent that blotted out the sky, everything was deathly still. After half a breath's time, Su-Yi began to regain consciousness as he used the art of controlling the heavens, the heavenly Fey ancient scripture, and the Origin Supreme technique at the same time. His body flickered with lightning as he tried his best to expel the blood. Seizing the opportunity, Su-Yi gained a sliver of vitality from the suffocating vacuum of blood. He suddenly opened his eyes and shouted, "Come out!" The space was filled with a thick stench of blood. Under the bizarre illusion, vitality was extinguished and the vital energy was dried up. Su-Yi's face was slightly pale. His eyes seemed to wither in the vacuum environment, but his eyes had a sneer. "Unfortunately, no matter how thick it is, it's still water. Water can't trap me." Suddenly, his palms turned downwards as an icy beam faintly seeped out. Su-Yi pushed his palms forward with great difficulty. With a slight stomp of his tiger paw, Cloud Shadow treading frost instantly shot out a beam of light from his tiger eyes. Two new spatial ripples appeared out of thin air in front of him. Bang! Bang! A loud sonic boom instantly soared into the sky as the sound waves reverberated through the space. The Fuyao 100 transformation steps condensed under his feet as the wings behind him flapped like the wind. Rumble! Just like that, with one pushing and the other flying, Su-Yi used both palms to open up a path with Cloud Shadow treading frost. His feet circulated the 100 steps of Fuyao to the extreme, and combined with the extreme speed of the White Flood Dragon God, Su-Yi took a big step forward in a breath's time. Bang! 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 The blood in the solidified space began to flow again as soul energy smoothly spread out. Seizing the opportunity, Su-Yi's soul energy enveloped the space within a kilometer. With a loud shout, he rushed out again. Huff! Huff! Su-Yi, who was breathing in large mouthfuls of fresh air, finally experienced what it meant to be happy and carefree. With lingering fear in his heart, he said to the Iron Soulfish, "Old Iron Soulfish, the blood energy here is too dense. It's even more powerful than the spatial boundaries we experienced before. Yes, it's indeed very strange. We can still make it if we go back now." Su-Yi sneered. He had already reached this depth, so there was no reason for him to leave just because he wanted to. Looking around, Su-Yi could see that the floating silver wood, weapons, and natural cultivation materials that Merciless West had mentioned had all been reduced to dust. The entire space was devoid of life. It was as if a giant beast had opened its bloody mouth and wanted to swallow everything in an instant, leaving nothing behind, including himself. It's really a pity for these floating silver wood. There were so many treasures underneath. Normally, very few people would be able to reach this depth. What a pity! After a sigh, Su-Yi immediately became spirited. He stepped on his profound handle and quickly left. "Let's go. Today, I'll find you whether you're a human or a ghost. There's no reason for me to lose to those two." Su-Yi's will to not admit defeat immediately burned fiercely in his heart. What puzzled Su-Yi was that they had already reached this point. Were those two really that much more powerful than him in terms of soul attainments? Bang! Instantly, an icy light soared into the sky. A blue light instantly rushed out like an ice dragon and created a huge, deep hole in front of him. The blood energy clashed with the blue light. Su-Yi was getting closer and closer to the light that was 13,000 meters away. Bang! The majestic blue light pillar reached its end. Immediately, fierce thunder resounded from the depths of the sea of blood. The already turbulent space began to tremble once again. Chapter 1661. An endless amount of unfamiliar aura spread out. The aura was sharp and murderous, and the blood-red aura permeated. Sui looked at the completely red light, and a sharp and domineering feeling arose in his heart. Got it! Sui roared in his heart. Sui stood straight with his head held high, and with a majestic aura, he leaped towards the light. In an instant, Sui was 13,000 meters away from the circle. On the broken sword cliff, the sky was filled with golden light from the dark clouds. Under the golden light, everyone's eyes were fixed on the changes on the light screen. Jun Haotian has already been at 14,000 meters for a long time. Why hasn't he moved? Luo Wia stroked his beard, puzzled. 13,000. Sui has reached 13,000. Everyone rejoiced, as if their own disciple had entered. Everyone from the Imperial Heavenly Palace looked on in shock. Guiyuan nodded and said, "No matter what, if Sui can reach 13,000, the situation will turn around a little. Let's see if Sui can pass the 15,000 mark and meet Palace Master Duanmu." Han Wulong thought. In the distance, the ordinary elders were pointing at the screen. One of the elders said to the screen, "Phew! It's so intense." Luckily, Feng didn't get involved. Elder Z, what did you say? Didn't Feng participate too? I just don't know where he is. Nothing. The old man called Elder Z had a trace of awkwardness on his face as he laughed dryly. At 13,000 meters, Sui could clearly feel the murderous energy seeping out from the terrifying whirlpool at the side. Compared to before, every 1,000 meters after 10,000 meters, the blood water would become thicker. It was no longer a place that an ordinary origin emperor could enter again. Sui was full of doubts. The fierce and domineering elemental energy was spreading, but Sui had already made it through the most important 12,000 meters. This kind of powerful elemental space was no longer a problem for Sui. The deeper Sui went, the stranger he felt. As he went deeper, Sui said to the iron soulfish in his body, "Old Iron, do you think Duanmu Xiaoman knows about this?" It's hard to say. A woman's heart is like a needle at the bottom of the ocean. I don't know what she's thinking. But if she says she doesn't know, I won't believe it. The iron soulfish took deep breaths, as if he was in a vacuum. Since Duanmu Xiaoman's methods were heaven-defying, and she had chosen this place as the location of the Heavenly Soul competition, she definitely knew about it. As for why she allowed everyone to go deeper into this place, he didn't know. In a split second, Sui suddenly recalled the time when they made the promise of 10,000 meters. Duanmu Xiaoman revealed an almost undetectable smile, and even said that if he survived, she would take him in as her disciple. Now that he thought about it, this woman was really scheming. Suddenly, Sui felt a chill run down his spine. What did she mean by surviving? She probably didn't even think about who would survive. But what good is it to kill me? Do you want to drag everyone down with you? The more he thought about it, the angrier he became. The more he thought about it, the more confused he became. Sui couldn't help but use the 100 steps of augmentation and peerless dragon flash. His speed was raised to the limit, and his body was filled with a fierce and domineering aura. The blood in his body began to boil. Sui's eyes trembled as he said, "Duanmu Xiaoman, what are you trying to do?" 20,000 meters. Sui had to go down. He had to get to the bottom of this. He had to find this old woman and ask her what she was trying to do. At this moment, along with the spread of a domineering and awe-inspiring aura, Sui's body swept out like a lightning phantom. The space was filled with a steady stream of soul energy, and Sui instantly reached the 14,000-meter circle of light. Whoosh! Sui's sword-like eyebrows furrowed, and his face was resolute. He looked at the bright red circle of light, as if he would fall into it and fall into it. He took a deep breath and stomped down. Instantly, his vision turned red, and a fierce murderous aura with a domineering soul energy collapsed around Sui. When he opened his eyes again, he could hear two voices talking a few hundred meters away. Zifeng, what are you trying to do? On the other side, an extremely demonic voice rang in Su Yi's ears. Kiki, isn't this our eldest senior brother, Jun Haotian? Not bad. You reached 15,000 meters in such a short time. How rare. Swim for me again. Swim. He could tell that the person speaking should be Zifeng, who was mentioned by the Imperial Palace's disciple. Jun Haotian said in a serious and steady voice, You're not bad either. To think that a disciple of the Arch K Lake could reach here. Zifeng seemed to be a little angry, and his anger turned into laughter. Impudent! It's all thanks to your master that you could reach here. It's all thanks to me that your master allowed you to reach here. Idiot! You self-righteous fool! You and your master are both sanctimonious bastards. When Zhuochu Feng was mentioned, Jun Haotian was instantly unable to sit still, and his voice had obviously become much louder. Zifeng, say that again. I'll kill you right now if you say another word about my master. Bang! His soul energy spread out, and the entire space was instantly shattered by the soul energy pressure. Amidst the surging winds, lightning flashed and thunder rumbled behind Jun Haotian, and it was as if a god had descended from the heavens. A pair of enormous tiger eyes suddenly materialized, and golden light flashed with coldness. Jun Haotian's killing intent filled the air, and his battle intent soared, and then he said to Zifeng faintly, Before I kill Su Yi, I'll give you one last chance to apologize for what you said earlier. Bang! Su Yi found a place to hide, and when he probed with his spiritual sense, he could sense a figure that was covered in blood and was facing Jun Haotian. It was Zifeng, who was rumored by the Imperial Palace's disciples. Zifeng raised his palm, and a huge wave of blood surged up, instantly condensing into a huge handprint, like the hand of a demon. The surrounding space instantly shattered inch by inch, and the space trembled. It directly slammed toward Jun Haotian, covering the sky and the sun. The vast and immortal blood-colored palm shattered the void, and the space instantly caved in. The entire huge circle seemed to be suppressed by a huge ball. The crushing pressure increased sharply, and the bloody wind along with the boundless pressure instantly pressed down on Jun Haotian. In an instant, Jun Haotian's expression changed drastically, and he instantly froze. The huge tiger-shaped remnant soul behind him didn't show any weakness, and with a flash of golden light, it collided with the huge handprint. Bang! Bang! Golden light glistened, and the blood energy was vast and mighty. The huge tiger body behind Jun Haotian suddenly stretched out, and it waved its claws from afar. The bloody handprint instantly became like a divine palm, grabbing the tiger body and remnant soul, and slamming it heavily towards the high ground on both sides. Boom! The space trembled, and the entire high ground instantly turned into ruins. The handprint turned into countless tiny fragments that hit Jun Haotian, and sticky blood flowed out from Jun Haotian's body. Chapter 1662. How can you be so strong? Jun Haotian looked at the bloody handprint that had already exploded. Zifeng's eyes were filled with malevolence, and the extremely ferocious blood pressure was like a monstrous demon that had walked out from the ground. Trash, you think you're great, but in my eyes you and Zhuochu Feng are just ants. You're not allowed to talk about my master like that. Jun Haotian's soul pressure rose again as he struggled to stand up. Zifeng had already disappeared into his vital energy. While he was flabbergasted, Zifeng heavily crushed his soul pressure on Jun Haotian's body. In an instant, terrifying blood energy spread out, and the hand that was like an arc of light heavily slapped Jun Haotian's face. PFFF. Instantly, another line of blood soared into the sky. Jun Haotian was hit until he saw stars, and his mind shook violently. Kiki, I'll tell you before I see your pitiful appearance, Zifeng said fiercely and mockingly. I've already noticed that something was wrong here. My master and I have already noticed the blood reincarnation here. My master is an idiot. He didn't dare to bear the responsibility alone and was actually stupid enough to tell Zhuqiu Feng. After he finished speaking, a ball of blood energy rippled behind Zi Feng as if it had materialized, and it fiercely crushed Jun Haotian's body. Zhuqiu Feng, that bitch, on the surface, told us not to interfere with matters outside the heavenly command palace, but secretly went deep into this place. Do you think that the high ground on both sides was made by the Duanmu Shaoman? Do you think that Duanmu Shaoman is the one who set up these rings of light at intervals of 1,000 meters? It was all secretly dug by that bitch of a master of yours to let the 7 fiend blood sword fruit reappear in the world without being discovered. 7 fiend blood sword fruit? 7 fiend blood sword fruit? The iron soulfish exclaimed softly. It was the first time that Su Yi had heard of this name, and he was slightly doubtful. He looked at the soul puppet beast and said with a serious expression, "Why? You know this thing?" The 7 fiend blood sword fruit is said to be a fruit produced by the blood sword spirit race. Its appearance is like a small sword, completely blood-red, and extremely sharp. Above spirit weapons, the weapons were psychic. The 7 kill blood sword fruit could stimulate the sword's instincts, reviving the sword spirit that it had lost. It could become a divine weapon again, or even a sacred weapon. The path to greatness is simple, and the cycle of loss and gain will repeat itself. The blade will become extremely sharp again, and at the same time, the direction of the blade will become extremely murderous, which will greatly confuse the user. The iron soulfish said in a deep voice. He did not even dare to breathe too loudly. There's actually such a thing in this world? Blood Sword Spirit Clan. How come I've never heard of it? Su Yi couldn't help sucking in a breath of cold air. Now is not the time to talk about this. You decide whether you want to enter or not. If the 7 fiend blood sword fruit is really in front of you, it may be a tough battle. You may not win. The soul puppet looked at Su Yi seriously. What do you mean? Su Yi's interest was piqued when he heard the conversation between Jun Haotian and Zi Feng. There was actually such a miraculous treasure in this world that could restore a weapon's consciousness. Such a treasure was rare in the world, and Su Yi naturally wanted to see it. The iron soulfish's eyelids drooped as he looked at Su Yi. A light flashed in his eyes as he said, "I can only say that this is not something that should be here in the first place. You decide what you want to do. I can't help you. Moreover, it seems that wherever the blood sword fruit appears, the murderous aura will naturally produce some murderous creatures to protect it. Is it a demon? It doesn't have much to do with the demon race, or else I would have sensed it long ago. However, it definitely has something to do with the demon race. Su Yi, are you going or not?" After pondering for a while, Su Yi withdrew his yuan qi and gathered his spirit. He thought to himself that the origin of this matter had nothing to do with the Duanmu Shaoman. However, he had promised the Duanmu Shaoman that he would meet her 20,000 meters below. Su Yi naturally couldn't go back on his word. There were many things that he needed the Duanmu Shaoman to tell him personally. "I'm going. Of course I'm going. Then I'll listen again." Zi Feng, who was standing in front of Jun Haotian, was seething with blood and qi. His long red finger pointed at Jun Haotian and sent out a powerful finger force. He said, "I didn't want to have so many casualties outside of 7,000 meters. Why are you forcing me?" As soon as he finished speaking, Zi Feng instantly moved closer to Jun Haotian. His eyes were extremely red as he stared at Jun Haotian like a demon. He said, "Why do you have to force me? I stopped you 7,000 meters away, and you didn't have to come in. Wouldn't it be better if you could live in peace? Why do you want to die? Kiki, you're all idiots." It turned out that Zi Feng had gathered so many people to stop him in order to divert everyone's attention to Su Yi. This way, he could enjoy the blood sword fruit and gain power. What do you mean? Jun Haotian groaned in pain. His face instantly turned pale and his soul trembled. Duanmu Xiaoman set the sky riding soul competition at the Broken Sword Ocean as soon as she came out of seclusion. She even set the range at 7,000 meters. I knew this couldn't be hidden from this old woman. Your idiot master created a total of 14 Seven Evils halos to block the light of the blood sword fruit. In the end, it still couldn't be hidden from the all-seeing Duanmu Xiaoman. So the light of each circle is called the Seven Evils halos. Su Yi pondered for a moment. All of this was done by Zhuqiu Feng and Zi Feng. I don't know what you're so proud of. There's no door to hell, but you came to hell. When the competition started, you were like a fish swimming down crazily, and almost ruined my plan. You're pretty good too. You actually went down to 14,000 meters. Not bad. Boom! A blood-red palm instantly rose up, and a soul pressure that was surging like the sun instantly subdued Jun Haotian. Jun Haotian was pressed firmly onto the ground, and his eyes gradually became lifeless. Zi Feng's beautiful face was already devoid of color, and she shook a tiny blood-red pearl of light in her hand as she spoke to Jun Haotian. But do you think you'd be able to swim here without me? You ought to have this as well, right? This is... As he looked at the shaking blood-red pearl in Zi Feng's hand, Jun Haotian instantly recalled that his master had given this pearl of light to him the night before the sky riding soul competition. So, he instantly withdrew an identical pillar of light from his pocket and spoke in a light voice. How could that be? That bastard Zhuqiu Feng was really good to you and gave you the seed of the blood sword fruit. Since the blood sword fruits started growing here, the blood-red baleful qi that covered the sky changed the spatial laws of Broken Sword Ocean. For the sake of preventing it from being exposed, Master reported it to Zhuqiu Feng and passed this seed bestowed by the Lord Blood Dragon God to you. All the scenes of Zhuqiu Feng that day appeared before Jun Haotian's eyes. No wonder Zhuqiu Feng told me that I would definitely be able to defeat Su Yi. Now that I think about it, Zhuqiu Feng completely had a deep meaning behind it. Chapter 1663. You never expected this, right? The Lord Blood Dragon God found out about Zhuqiu Feng and knew that this idiot would definitely ruin things, so he rewarded me with a seed. Zi Feng's expression warped as he looked at Jun Haotian, who was crushed to the point his body was on the verge of collapse, and he laughed madly. As for me, it was I who noticed the blood-red reincarnation formation here, and the bloodsword fruit is about to take form. No one can destroy it before that. You and your master have to die, and Duanmu has to die as well. Everyone has to die. The strength of the bloodsword fruit belongs to me alone. Of course, there's also that idiot Su Yi. He thinks he's extraordinary and even wants to break through to the 20,000 mark. No one has ever been able to arrive at the 20,000 mark, and even if they do, the bloodsword fruit is there, so they'll die if they go there. Only I, Zi Feng, can obtain the gift of the Lord Blood Dragon God, and become the first in the Heavenly Command Palace. Ha ha ha! Zi Feng laughed gloomily and furiously. You've absolutely gone mad. You've already lost your mind for the sake of strength. Jun Haotian spoke in a low and gloomy voice. Bullshit. What about you? Aren't you still going against Su Yi for the sake of a little bit of strength? Where's your heart as a cultivator? You're just like your master, both of you are hypocrites, kid. Jun Haotian pounded the ground with difficulty. At this moment, he instantly felt that he was slightly unreasonable. Because of Zhuqiu Feng's mistake, he wanted to regain respect in front of everyone, and he'd unintentionally fallen into obsession. At this moment, Su Yi completely understood that the bloodsword fruit and the guardian demon, the blood dragon god, had already appeared at the bottom of Broken Sword Ocean, whereas Zi Feng was aware of the bloodsword fruit that was about to take form, Yet his master didn't dare bear the responsibility and had reported it truthfully to Zhuqiufeng before the competition. Unexpectedly, Su Yi had appeared, and Zhuqiufeng had secretly given the seed of the Bloodsword fruit to Jun Haotian for the sake of allowing Jun Haotian to obtain the first. The timing of the Bloodsword fruit and the Heavenly Command Soul Tournament clashed. After Su Yi's whereabouts became unknown at the back of the mountain, Zhuqiufeng knew of Jun Haotian's proud and aloof character, so he didn't tell Jun Haotian the truth. The Battle of Command Souls on the second day would be held as usual. If Jun Haotian obtained the first, then based on Jun Haotian's outstanding display, Zhuqiufeng would naturally be able to become the master of the palace. It wouldn't be too late to tell Jun Haotian the truth after the blood sword fruits ripened. During the Heavenly Wind ranking tournament, Jun Haotian would be able to represent the Imperial Heavenly Palace in the 6 continents, 3 continents, and 1 ocean. The Bloodsword fruit could be said to be Zhuqiufeng's trump card, and all of this was directly destroyed by Duanmu Xiaoman's forceful suppression. The Duanmu Xiaoman should be aware of Zhuqiufeng's actions at the bottom of the Broken Sword Ocean, but she shouldn't know it so thoroughly. As far as Su Yi was concerned, the Duanmu Xiaoman was going along with Zhuqiufeng's plan. Otherwise, she wouldn't have allowed so many people to enter the Broken Sword Ocean. Duanmu Xiaoman's intentions could be seen by setting the Imperial Soul competition at the Broken Sword Ocean. At this moment, the spatial laws of the Broken Sword Ocean were already different from before. After 7,000 meters, those below the Origin Emperor realm wouldn't be able to enter at all. After 10,000 meters, they didn't even need to think about it. However, it was Su Yi's arrival that destroyed Zi Feng's plan. Su Yi's arrival caused Jun Haotian's sudden emergence, and the bet between Su Yi and Duanmu Xiaoman caused the blood sword fruit that was about to ripen to have the possibility of being destroyed. Naturally, Zi Feng would not allow such a thing to happen. Thus, he lured everyone to intercept Su Yi. His biggest goal was to prevent others from discovering the secret of the Broken Sword and Sea of Blood. If he went crazy and intercepted Jun Haotian, he would be able to eliminate the 2 most unstable factors in his plan. As for the remaining Duanmu Xiaoman, she would become the food of the Blood Dragon God, so Zi Feng didn't need to consider her. Su Yi suddenly thought that Zi Feng was really a talent, but it was a pity that he sold his soul to the devil. However, Old Iron once said that the Blood Sword fruit and the Blood Dragon God didn't belong to this place. Duanmu definitely didn't know about it, but for the sake of the bet, Duanmu would definitely wait for him at 20,000 meters. In that case, Duanmu would be in danger. Su Yi suddenly frowned. You should worry about yourself. You should think about how to get out. If it's really like what this kid said, the blood sword fruit and the broken sword ocean are no joke. No. I have to go save her, Su Yi said with a frown. Who's going to save who? You better think carefully. That little girl's cultivation might be above mine. My current state. Cough cough. You'll be helping the wrong side if you go, the Iron Soulfish said righteously, afraid that Su Yi would act impulsively. Boom. Old Iron, if I don't save her, I feel that there are many things that I won't be able to figure out for the rest of my life. The Iron Soulfish suddenly shouted and stood up from the vestibule. I see that you've taken a liking to her. Calm down for me. Come back. Su Yi's skinny yet proud body stood up abruptly. The illusory sky white dragon mantra and the art of controlling the heavens were activated at the same time. In an instant, an extremely powerful sound of wind and thunder spread out from Su Yi's body. His body then leaped up again and rushed towards Zi Feng. It's still better than someone like you who has lost his mind. Su Yi slowly appeared from the blood ocean. The white light around his body made him look like a god. The Iron Soulfish angrily shouted from inside Su Yi's body, Hey! Are you listening to me? Don't go. Who is it? Zi Feng turned around to look. As soon as he finished speaking, a white shadow of a Jiao dragon appeared behind Sui. A clear dragon's roar pierced through the blood ocean, causing the hearts of those who heard it to tremble. Sui, Zifeng and Jun Haotian cried out at the same time. They didn't think that Sui would be able to come so quickly. Bang! Extreme Illusory Sky Slash. This was Suyi's second ability as a white serpent god. He possessed a soul aura that far exceeded that of a normal barbarian beast. He was able to manipulate the soul aura generated in the air and use it as a weapon to attack his enemies when they were unprepared. In an instant, the blood ocean's aura in Suyi's hand was like a long blood-colored saber. His entire body was covered in a crimson light and carried with it a murderous aura that filled the air. The blood that was condensed in the air suddenly trembled. High up in the sky, an extremely mysterious and unpredictable arc was drawn in an instant. It blended with the surroundings and instantly flashed out. Suyi's figure leaped up high and aimed at Zifeng's head with an extremely ferocious blade aura. Boom! Only when he got closer did Sui see that Zifeng's body was covered in layers of blood-colored scales. It was as if he was a man made of blood. Suyi's expression changed slightly. Zifeng was covered in blood qi, and his murderous aura condensed. The scales on his arms instantly collided with Suyi's saber. Then, a huge surge of blood qi surged, and the place where the two collided was like tofu. Instantly, the space was torn apart, and the blood-red armor that Zifeng quickly set up wrapped around him from head to toe. Zifeng roared. His blood-red eyes were filled with murderous intent. His hands instantly grabbed onto Suyi's blood-colored saber. Suddenly, Suyi's expression changed. He shouted, "Not good!" Chapter 1664. Boom! Sui, you're courting death. The blood qi around Zifeng's body was like glue, tightly wrapping around Suyi's blood-red long saber. Zifeng's face was filled with killing intent. With a wave of his soul, he instantly shot out a soul ribbon from his hand towards Sui. Blood aura surged, and the spiritual pressure in the air suddenly reached its peak. The three people's souls trembled, and the vibrating space at the bottom of the sea burst out with a deep sound of sonic booms. Bang bang! Suddenly, Suyi's face darkened. After being hit, Sui could feel the blood aura in his meridian surging. His tough body began to gradually turn red. His soul energy is too corrosive. Looking at Zifeng, Sui wanted to retreat, but it was too late. Zifeng held Suyi's blood-red long saber like a pair of giant pincers. Disdain flashed in his eyes, and his blood aura burst out like smoke. Chi. The blood-red long saber was like snow under the sunlight. It became paralyzed in front of Sui, and in less than a breath of time, it melted into the bottom of the sea. In the next moment, purple wind swept to the depth of Suyi's body at an astonishing speed. A blood-red murderous aura spread out in all directions. Behind him, it was as if an extremely brutal and monstrous blood dragon shadow had appeared. The sky was filled with an extremely terrifying might. There was a sharp and ear-piercing roar in the air. The dragon's claws were as sharp as knives as they were pointed at Suyi's chest. The blood claw slammed directly at him. "Blood Dragon Saint Claw!" Zifeng shouted coldly. Bang! With a crisp sound, it was obvious that Zifeng's strength had reached the upper level 4. The space trembled, and in an instant, the blood dragon claw was in front of Sui. Whoosh! The demon spirit battle armor appeared. Sui, who was glowing with a demonic light from head to toe, instantly sent out 2 fiery red thunderbolts to block the blood dragon claw. At the same time, his body retreated rapidly. 2 dull sounds came from the bottom of the sea. Under the protection of the demon spirit battle armor, the blood aura became even more demonic. The entire broken sword sea was suddenly filled with demonic aura and evil light. The whistling seawater was constantly flowing in his ears. The blood-red soul energy that filled the sky instantly turned everything around him into corpses and withered things. Su-yi, who had been hit by the palm, could feel the blood and spiritual energy in his body rushing toward the heavenly origin demon soul. Not good, he exclaimed inwardly. In the blink of an eye, Su-yi quickly circulated the illusory sky-white dragon cannon. At the same time, his hand seals changed continuously. Protective Zhen Qi and golden dragon patterns quickly spread all over his body. His soul energy was like flowing water, nourishing his Tian Yuan beast soul. I wonder who's courting death. Su-yi's face instantly turned cold. He activated the illusory sky extreme killing blade again. A cold light flashed in his eyes. Su-yi waved his hand. This time, Su-yi took the initiative to attack. After knowing the characteristics of Zifeng's blood aura, Su-yi's demon spirit battle armor and protective Yuan Qi were all activated. His figure turned into a stream of light and shot towards Zifeng like a bolt of lightning. Unparalleled Dragon Flash. Illusory Sky Extreme Killing Blade. Su-yi's figure tore through the sky, as if he was piercing through the sea. In an instant, 4 soul shadow doppelgangers appeared in the sea. In this sea filled with rich soul energy, this move was the most practical. Su-yi, who was extremely fast, created a series of ripples and explosions in the vibrating space of the seawater. The long space ripples were very spectacular. At this moment, Zifeng's face changed. Su-yi was coming from all directions. Every one of them was a physical existence. Looking at Su-yi's soul shadow tearing through space, Zifeng blurted out, "How is this possible?" "Die!" Su-yi shouted. In the next moment, the soul wind blades swept across the sky, creating countless ripples in the sea. They continuously hit Zifeng's face. In terms of strength, with the help of the Blood Dragon God's power, Zifeng had instantly reached the high 4th rank. However, the quality of his soul was worlds apart from Su-yi's. Looking at Su-yi's 4 soul shadows, Zifeng was already scared out of his wits. The blood dragon shadow behind him reacted in a panic, but it was soon covered in blood by the small soul blades. In the blood fog, while Zifeng was still thinking about the situation, Su-yi would not let go of such a good opportunity. Su-yi shouted, and the first characteristic of the white flood dragon god was instantly used. Too slow. The sound waves followed Zifeng's body like a shadow. The sound waves that filled the sky were amplified by the sea water. The roaring sound echoed in Zifeng's soul. "You deserve to die." The faint cold voice made Zifeng feel an invisible soul energy. The spiritual energy and soul energy in his body seemed to be stagnant. Pucci. At the same time, a line of blood could be seen flying out. Zifeng fiercely smashed into the high ground beside him, creating a long bloody ripple in the sea water. With his back against the high ground, Zifeng's face was instantly filled with shock. Su-yi's physical strength was beyond his imagination. This vast soul energy and unimaginable soul skill were also far beyond his imagination. The attack that followed the shadows was impossible to guard against. The 4 soul shadows directly amplified the attack, and the final sound wave attack directly caused his mind to collapse. The ability that he obtained by relying on the blood dragon god was actually neutralized by Su-yi in a few moves. Zifeng's face immediately turned pale, and his mind collapsed. How could he say anything else? He only wanted to quickly escape. In the end, he kept muttering, "Impossible, impossible." Still want to escape? Zifeng, you can't escape. Su-yi's eyes darkened. At the side, Jun Haotian slowly stood up. He was trembling and his eyes were deep. The color of blood had not yet recovered, but his hand seals were formed. The soul energy of a mid-tier 4th grade soul was immediately spread out. The seed of Jun Haotian's blood sword fruit immediately floated in the air, looking especially enchanting and fishy in the sea of blood. The next moment, the seed of blood sword fruit in Zifeng's bosom seemed to have sensed something, and an exquisite and tiny blood aura instantly rose into the air, responding from a distance. Whoosh! Jun Haotian glanced at Su Yi and pondered for a moment. The soul ribbon in his hand swept out like a floating light, and a ray of light immediately enveloped the two blood sword fruit seeds. Jun Haotian, you bastard, what are you doing? Zifeng shouted himself hoarse. His face was close to withered. Boom! The sword seed suddenly exploded, turning into a huge blood-red energy aura that surged out. Su Yi shouted, Jun Haotian, retreat! Jun Haotian's eyes were filled with boundless energy and a majestic blood aura. The blood chi that filled the sky quickly dissipated in the vast broken sword sea. Su Yi's heavenly origin demon soul immediately trembled. This blood chi was incomparably majestic and could cause a great impact on the soul. Calm. Wonderful Book House. Chapter 1665. The sea of blood was like the bottom of the sea filled with red smoke. It was filled with killing intent, blood, and decay. The whirlpool at the side was filled with blood bubbles that were like magma spat out by a giant beast. The sea of blood was deep, and everything seemed to be annihilated by the explosion. The blood sword fruit exploded, and countless blood arrows pierced through the sea. Chi! Zifeng stood up as if he had gone mad. He stood up straight and kept grabbing the remaining killing intent of the blood sword fruit. Su Yi and Jun Haotian could feel that Zifeng's soul energy was dissipating, and his soul cultivation was decreasing. Upper grade 4. Middle grade 4. Lower grade 4. At this time, Zifeng was incomparably crazy. His body was covered in blood because of the countless tiny blades of the ultimate illusion sky blade. His exposed skin was bathed in blood, and under the cleansing of the blood, it became even more terrifying. My cultivation! My cultivation! Ah! Zifeng roared crazily. His hands were constantly slapping and pushing in the air. Streaks of soul light whizzed out from his palms. In the blink of an eye, the entire seabed was turned upside down, the earth quaked, and the mountains shook. Countless resources and sediment were instantly destroyed into dregs in the blood water. Upper grade 3. Middle grade 3. His cultivation was still decreasing, and Zifeng's cultivation finally stopped at the middle grade 3. Due to the dissipation of the blood sword fruit's baleful aura, Zifeng was like a walking corpse, drifting in the air like a rootless person. He had been completely bewitched by the blood sword fruit's baleful aura, constantly shouting from afar. I'm going to kill you! Jun Haotian! What's the big deal about being a middle grade 4? Su Yi, you bastard, get out here! Two figures retreated from the blood clouds like lightning, instantly leaving the area covered by the blood aura. Below them was the 15,000-meter wide ring of light, shining with a resplendent light. Jun Haotian, you don't have to do this. Su Yi frowned as he looked at Jun Haotian. His actions earlier were too dangerous. If he wanted to deal the final blow to Zifeng, he could have done it himself. There was no need for Jun Haotian to do it himself. Turning his head to look at Zifeng in the blood mist, Jun Haotian's disappointment was mixed with melancholy. It was clear that Jun Haotian's mind had already returned to normal. He said solemnly, all these years, under the leadership of Master, Heavenly Command Palace has indeed neglected their subordinates too much. Right and wrong, karma arose because of both of us. The blood sword fruit arose because of me, so naturally it will perish because of me. Jun Haotian clenched his fists as he looked at Zifeng, whose cultivation was much lower than before. He roared, I've already destroyed the blood sword fruit. I know my strength very well. If you come too quickly, it'll all be for naught. Or perhaps going too far is as bad as not going far enough. That's right. What's not yours will never be yours. If it's yours, no one can take it away from you. Su-yi raised his eyes and looked at the dazed Jun Haotian. He sighed in his heart. One was the #1 disciple of Heavenly Command Palace, and the other was the #1 disciple of Arch K Lake. They should have had a bright future ahead of them, but because of the blood sword fruit, they didn't have a good ending. Perhaps this was the best outcome. Jun Haotian was decisive and didn't suffer too much of a backlash from the blood sword fruit. As for Zifeng, because he was immersed in the blood mist, his meridians and soul were severely damaged when the blood sword fruit was destroyed. Even his mind was in an abnormal state. Jun Haotian, whose eyes were already lifeless, staggered because he had consumed too much soul energy. He looked at Su-yi with a bitter smile and said, "Now I know why I can reach 14,000 meters. I'd rather not have this blood sword fruit." "You're a real man," Su-yi said softly. Boom boom. In the distance, Zifeng was still yelling nonstop. He was in a state of madness and was constantly pounding his chest and stamping his feet. In the space where the blood mist was surging, rumbling noises were constantly produced. The entire space was on the verge of collapse. Looking at Zifeng, Jun Haotian said unhurriedly, "I'll take junior brother Zifeng and leave. Zifeng is too strong. Master's selfishness caused such an outcome. Su-yi, I've lost this battle. Please continue walking down the path for me. There can't be any more casualties. No one can be harmed because of Master's mistake." Su-yi nodded and looked at Jun Haotian with a profound gaze. He nodded repeatedly in his heart and said, "This sober Jun Haotian really has some responsibility. He's much stronger than Zhuqiufeng. If possible, I really hope that Jun Haotian can help Chu and Li Shiran more in the future." Whoosh! In the next moment, Jun Haotian looked at the enormous space that had been destroyed to the point of desolation. He took a deep breath and condensed a hand seal. Then Jun Haotian flew towards Zifeng like a stream of light. He struck Zifeng's head and carried the limp Zifeng as he said in a deep voice, "Junior brother Zifeng, follow me back to Heavenly Command Palace to receive your punishment. You don't have the blood sword fruit. How are you going to get out?" Su-yi asked. Jun Haotian's face was ghastly pale. A trace of tranquility flashed through his eyes as he said, "Su-yi, you're underestimating me too much." Then Jun Haotian picked out a small jade stone from his pocket. It was only the size of a thumb. He swiped it in the air, and a shocking pressure instantly flashed out in the space that was suffused with bloody baleful qi. The pressure was accompanied by electric arcs, and an extremely dense spatial rift suddenly appeared. Rumble! Dense white electric arcs revolved around it like a waterfall, and the electric arcs that had the size of an infant's arm rumbled and roared. "Space-cracking jade?" Su-yi asked in surprise. Jun Haotian was clearly using the space-cracking jade, but it was so convenient and simple to use. "Haha, this is the lesser space-cracking jade that Heavenly Command Palace improved on the foundation of the space-cracking jade. Unlike the space-cracking jade that's suitable for teleportation across space and time, this lesser space-cracking jade requires relatively loose energy and restrictions. Moreover, it only supports teleportation within a few tens of thousands of meters. It can only be used once, and it'll be destroyed once it's used." "Who? There's actually such a good thing," Su-yi praised in his heart. It seemed like he still had to explore the Heavenly Command Palace more in the future. In terms of treasures, the Heavenly Command Palace was still the best. "Su-yi, I really don't want to say this, but you're really strong. Those evil creatures below, please help the Heavenly Command Palace get rid of them." Rumble! In an instant, Jun Haotian carried Zifeng and ran towards the countless spatial rift. Immediately, the surrounding spatial energy surged, and the spatial rifts closed with a sharp gust of wind. Looking at the two people who had already disappeared, Su-yi felt that Jun Haotian was still a little arrogant. At the last moment, he was willing to let him get rid of them rather than admit that his master's old rival, Duanmu, was below. He couldn't help but shake his head and smile bitterly. Su Yi's heart ached. He didn't expect the blood sword fruit to be so powerful. It was a pity that he didn't come to the bottom of the broken sword sea earlier to find more treasures for the Bawang sect. Wouldn't it be a good thing if he could equip the Bawang sect with treasures like the floating silver wood? It's a pity that these treasures at the bottom of the sea are wasted. Let's go. Who knows, there might be some treasures below. Having lost the opportunity to obtain a rare treasure, Su Yi's heart ached for a while. However, he didn't think too much about it. After all, the Heavenly Command Palace was a treasure trove. Looking at the 15,000-meter circle of light, Su Yi's heart began to turn serious. It must be extremely difficult down there. You really have to be prepared, the iron soulfish said faintly. Chapter 1666. On the broken sword cliff, the sea breeze was blowing. All the spectating elders had their jaws dropped to the ground as they looked at the light screen. The two dots of light had already started to converge at a distance of 15,000 meters. Gyue, Han Wulong, and the others had their eyes wide open. Even the ordinary elders behind them were swallowing their saliva. They all believed that an earth-shattering battle was taking place at the bottom of the broken sword cliff. Fear, panic, and guesses surrounded everyone's heart. Han Wulong and Gyue raised their eyebrows at the same time as their hearts tightened. If the dot of light continued to sink, this battle would be considered a victory. The other elders were also nervous. The battle between Su Yi and Jun Haotian was clearly a battle between the new generation of the Command Heavenly Palace. Although Su Yi wasn't a member of the Command Heavenly Palace yet, under the guidance of Palace Master Duanmu, they would definitely try to rope in Su Yi. No matter who won, if the dot of light could sink to 15,000 meters, it would be a victory for the Command Heavenly Palace. Who? The ordinary elders behind them had uneasy expressions. As expected, the chaotic battle in the Command Heavenly Soul competition had nothing to do with them. 15,000 meters. Who do you think will win? Jun Haotian or Su Yi? Whoever comes out will be the winner. Among the ordinary elders, a person with a wrinkled face, high cheekbones, and a few strands of silver hair that showed the vicissitudes of life didn't say a word. Elder Z, don't worry. Although Z Feng is arrogant, he won't do anything stupid. Humph. This time, our Arch K Lake's people are here to serve as foils again. When will the Arch K Lake produce such a genius? The corner of Elder Z's eyes twitched. He placed his hands behind his back and was about to go to the other side to relax. The elders behind him said softly, "Stop talking." Elder Z originally wanted to follow Zhuoqiufeng's path, but he didn't expect to end up like this. Elder Z? It can't be. His disciple Z Feng is the #1 disciple of the Arch K Lake. Even the top 5 personal disciples would be worth watching. Chi La. As soon as he finished speaking, the wind and clouds in the distant sky surged. Thick dark clouds instantly pressed down on the sky. Then, a figure tore through the space and arrived. The surging waves rose high like a white dragon burning the sky. A figure stood in the air. His face was pale, and his long black hair was already messy. Someone is coming out. Shua. Their gazes were like sharp swords as they landed on the newcomer. Everyone exclaimed, "Jun Haotian! It's Jun Haotian!" Han Wulong and Gyue were also very surprised. They frowned and whispered, "Strange, why didn't the light spot move?" The water column was like a dragon, instantly dispersing the dark clouds. Everyone rushed forward and saw clearly that Jun Haotian was carrying a person in his hand. The person looked like a bloody person. There was not a single part of the person's body that was intact. The flesh that had split open revealed a trace of a fishy smell. It was as if the person had been pulled out from a swamp and had lost all vitality and vitality. "Who is that person?" Han Wulong roared in a low voice. It didn't look like Sui. The light spot on the light screen didn't disappear. What happened? Why did Jun Haotian come out from the space crack? Gyue whispered softly. At this time, an old man in a purple robe rushed out from the crowd. His figure turned into a stream of light and took the bloody Zifeng from Jun Haotian's hand. Feng it really is you. Why did you still choose this path? Jun Haotian coughed twice. His eyes were lifeless. It was obvious that he had suffered severe internal injuries. His heart and soul were in turmoil. He coldly said to Elder Z in front of him, "Those who are unjust are doomed to destruction. Junior brother Zifeng is too stubborn." Suddenly, Jun Haotian looked at the sky and smiled bitterly. A mouthful of blood mist instantly sprayed 3 feet into the sky. What was the difference between him and Zifeng? One of them represented Heavenly Drive River, while the other represented Arch K Lake. In fact, they were both disciples of Heavenly Drive Palace. Why was there a need to distinguish between those who were close or distant? It's all karma. After saying this, Jun Haotian's heart and soul trembled. His eyes were dazzled and he fell backward. Elder Wang's roar came from behind him, "Haotian! Haotian!" Luo Wuya, Long Pashan, and the other middle 5th-rank experts suddenly burst into the air. Like 2 sword lights, they suddenly arrived in the air and caught the falling Jun Haotian in an instant. Returning to the high cliff, Elder Z gently put Zifeng down. His eyes were full of shame and disappointment. His lips trembled as he looked at his disciple lying on the ground in despair. His former pride had now faded into the crowd. His cultivation had regressed. He thought that from now on, he would no longer have the capital to surpass others. What happened to Zifeng? Why did Jun Haotian come out from the space crack? What does it have to do with Zifeng? At this time, Gyue and Han Wulong also walked over. Their eyes were cold. Gyue slowly poured his vitality into Jun Haotian's body. Bang! The sudden rise in temperature set off a boundless soul fluctuation. Immediately, it formed a rebounding light wave in the air and rushed into Gyue's palm. Blood chi surged. Scarlet evil chi flowed out from Jun Haotian's skin. In an instant, countless amounts of evil chi shot into the air. His eyes flashing, Gyue hurriedly formed a hand seal. He activated the art of controlling the heavens to refine the evil chi in his palm. His eyes were slightly surprised. He turned to Han Wulong and said softly, "This is blood chi?" Han Wulong's eyes immediately shone. His expression was serious. He squatted down and a golden light slowly poured into Jun Haotian's body. Similarly, with a bang, a turbid and surging evil chi surged. An incomparably hot energy immediately rushed into Han Wulong's heart and soul. Roar! A dragon's roar sounded out of thin air, and a monstrous energy surged out from Han Wulong's body as if it had transcended the heavens and the earth. The bones in his hands cracked as an astonishing energy once again flowed into Jun Haotian's body. Boom! In that instant, a blood-red soul attack also shot out, causing Han Wulong's golden dragon aura to become even more anxious. Tion's sharp and desolate aura, as well as her terrifying soul attack, was also released. Whoosh! Han Wulong's figure suddenly retreated, and the space rippled. Han Wulong roared angrily, and a golden light beam shot out from his hand. Chi-chi, sounds kept coming from his hand, and the golden light shone brightly like the sun, and instantly dispersed the blood chi. This evil chi is no small matter, Han Wulong said in a deep voice. Luo Wuya, Long Pashan, and Gyue all frowned. Looks like something shocking really happened at 15,000 meters. Sui is still down there. This won't do, Han Wulong said. Looking at the light screen, the light spot representing Sui was still moving at a distance of 15,000 meters. Everyone was inexplicably shocked and shouted out loud. Sui is still sinking. He's still alive. Making a prompt decision, Gyue immediately gave the order. He said in a clear voice, "Weia, Pas Han, quickly bring Zi Feng and Haotian back to the heaven-controlling river to treat their injuries. Sect Master Han, Palace Master Duanmu is still down there. The situation down there is not something we can control. With Palace Master Duanmu here, we can take our time to plan." Chapter 1667. After hearing Gyue's words, Han Wulong lowered his gaze and seemed to be thinking about something. He glanced at Jun Haotian and Zi Feng, who were lying on the ground. At this moment, Han Wulong really wanted to know what had happened below. "Alright Gyue, I'll wait for a while longer," Han Wulong said in a low voice while his heart tightened. The large number of light spots on the light screen were around 4 to 5 kilometers away. Han Yuro wasn't very concerned about it, but Su-yi must be fine. After watching everyone carry Jun Haotian and Zi Feng away, everyone started to ask Elder Zi what exactly had happened. The ordinary elders who just noticed that something was wrong with Elder Zi instantly felt their hearts jerk. They looked at Elder Zi's lifeless face that was filled with despair. He sat weakly on the ground and said absent-mindedly, "Blood sword fruit. It's all because of the blood sword fruit that Feng is like this. Haotian's injury is definitely related to it." Gyue and Han Wulong were both surprised. They'd heard of the blood sword fruit before, but they'd never seen it. At this moment, they were even more confused as they thought in their hearts. Blood sword fruit, could it be that such a thing really exists in the world? At the side, Elder Vassal and teaching elders also had solemn expressions on their faces. The ordinary elders began to chatter incessantly. "What's the blood sword fruit? How can it be so formidable? It's 10,000 meters below the ground? I've never heard of it. Does the Cloud Prefecture have such a thing? I've never heard of it in other continents either. What exactly is it?" Bang! A powerful aura spread out. At the same time, a strand of golden light that was visible to the naked eye was suffused and struck the high cliff. Under the light, a whistling sound that shot into the sky shook the sky and broke through the dark clouds. In an instant, the rocks surged and the sea breeze blew violently. "All of you shut the fuck up. Listen to Elder Z." As soon as he finished speaking, everyone was slightly surprised, but they were afraid of Han Wulong's strength, so they all kept silent. What exactly is going on? Elder Z was on the verge of tears as he ceaselessly knocked his forehead with his hand and complained. "It's all my fault. It's all that bastard Zhuo Feng's fault. I told Feng not to interfere in this matter. Why? After asking a dozen or so questions, he didn't say anything else. Regardless of who urged him, Elder Z was still immersed in the grief of his beloved disciple being destroyed. Gyue gently pulled Han Wulong to the side. Han Wulong's veins were bulging. He straightened his neck and breathed heavily. He said fiercely, "What is this old Z doing? We're about to die from anxiety, yet he's still putting on airs. What's he doing?" Gyue sighed lightly and shook his head as he said, "I'm probably able to guess most of this matter. It's probably because Zhuo Feng ordered them to disregard the birth of the bloodsword fruit, yet Zi Feng acted willfully and caused the phenomena from before to appear repeatedly. What about the bloodsword fruit?" Han Wulong lowered his voice. "That's right. It's related to Qing Tian's disappearance. It's said that Qing Tian returned to the Sky Barbarian continent twice, and he returned to the Cloud continent once. The blood sword fruit isn't something from the 6 continents, 3 continents, and 1 sea." Gyue's eyelids twitched. He felt a little creeped out when he mentioned the name and the matters behind it. Han Wulong stood with his hands on his back, his robes fluttering. A trace of anxiety flashed across his determined face. He nodded heavily and said, "Nothing must happen to Su-yi. Of course, this matter is related to Qing Tian. The palace master must have guessed the reason for going down early. It's best for us to wait here. At the bottom of the broken sword sea, in the 15,000-meter circle, Su-yi, who had broken through to the 15,000-meter circle, soaked in the sea water. The blood-red liquid streaked across Su-yi's jade-like skin, glittering in the depths of the vast and deep sea. The white and red light flowed strangely. Whoosh! Su-yi clearly felt that the soul pressure around him had begun to rise rapidly. He felt as if he had fallen into an abyss. The Yuanyang heavenly dragon bone could faintly feel a kind of pressure that pervaded the world. The 15,000-meter circle no longer has the seven fiends halo. The soul pressure is far from what the previous circles can compare to. Su-yi's heart sank. Everywhere he looked, there was a blood-red sea and lifeless floating objects. Only then did Su-yi realize that this circle was much more difficult than the previous ones. After 7,000 meters, ordinary warriors and soul personages could no longer enter. The next layer was even more difficult than the previous one. The current circle was equivalent to 2 to 3 times the depth of the previous one. 30 to 40,000 meters. No matter what, I'm still first. Su-yi shook his head and smiled bitterly. Su-yi was very clear on this point. If he didn't have the art of driving the heavens, the supreme art of origin, and the heavenly Fey ancient scripture, combined with the white flood dragon's power, the diamond body, the refinement of the golden dragon, and the tempering of the heavenly Fey soul, he wouldn't have been able to hold on. Therefore, this was the reason why Su-yi dared to take the risk. If someone else was here, they would definitely gasp. The merciless West couldn't even reach 5,000 meters, but Su-yi had already reached a depth of 30 to 40,000 meters with his heaven-defying soul pressure. Su-yi's current goal was 20,000 meters. Not only did he want to fulfill his promise, but he also wanted to take a look at the blood sword fruit. If he could restore the sword spirit of his blood demon-killing god sword, wouldn't that be wonderful? Kid, I'll say it one last time. It's not that simple. You better keep your own life. I still need to reincarnate. Okay. Su-yi could hear the iron soulfish's concern for him, and nodded heavily. Looking around, the white flood dragon's power was fully activated. Su-yi's clothes fluttered in the sea of blood, making him look like a blood-red god of death who had lived in this world for a long time. An invisible pressure was resisting the seawater in the surrounding air. Even the air seemed to have frozen as he looked down coldly at the endless bloody abyss below. Boom! A bone-chilling coldness suddenly seeped out of Su-yi's body. The primal yang heavenly dragon bone began to emit a crackling sound. Su-yi's body was like a heavy weight as he rapidly descended, forming a huge bubble of air in the sea of blood. His long tail was like a meteor in the sea of blood. After 15,000 meters, the seven evils halo's restriction was no longer there. Su-yi tried his best to increase his speed, but the seawater pressure that was gradually spreading above him was like a maggot in his bones, constantly seeping into his skin and meridians, as if it was going to disintegrate and collapse Su-yi's heart and soul again. In the sea of blood, it was as if a white light was torn apart in space. It spread out with golden, blue, and red lights, and a terrifyingly high temperature that even the soul couldn't withstand fell vertically. The sudden high pressure caused Su-yi's killing intent to surge. His deep eyes surged with light. You want to stop me with this? You're dreaming. Gulp. Chapter 1668. Su-yi's body was filled with an increasingly heavy pressure. The depths of the blood sea were like a bolt of lightning as they fell from the sky. His ears were filled with the sound of bubbles, whistling into Su-yi's ears. The terrifying whirlpools around him were constantly spewing out blood-red light. The huge bubbles were like a bloody mouth that could swallow Su-yi in an instant. It's getting more and more difficult down there. At 20,000 meters, the pressure is no longer comparable to ordinary pressure. If you feel that it's impossible, you can retreat at any time. The iron soulfish reminded Su-yi once again. At this time, Su-yi was no longer careless. His soul energy instantly spread out. His aura was like that of a supreme king that had existed since ancient times. It revealed an indescribable ancient aura, and at the same time, it carried an indescribable evil aura. It was faintly in tune with the eerie atmosphere around him. It's just a pressure. Let's go. The heavenly origin demon soul was like a small sun. It instantly lit up and became extremely dazzling. The crimson light spread all over his body, and for no reason, he felt as if his soul was about to be set on fire. He used the peerless dragon flash once again. In a spurt of energy, he could gradually see the blood-red light overflowing from the bottom. It was as cold and evil as hell. Even in the blood sea, it was as bright as a blooming peony. As he sank, he could see the weapons and pill bottles floating around him. They had completely lost their spiritual chi and vitality. Looking around, there were countless undersea barbaric demonic beasts of various sizes wandering around the vast seabed. Some of them were hundreds of meters long and covered in scales. They were extremely ferocious, and their huge bodies gave off a terrifying aura. Are these the undersea demon beasts that they were talking about? Sui said in surprise. What a pity. These little creatures are all top demon beasts that could dominate an area outside. How could they die so inexplicably? The soul puppet squinted its eyes. Sui pondered for a moment and said, at a depth of 20,000 meters, after cultivating here for so many years, I've also been contaminated by the blood chi. At the same time, Suyi's figure once again descended with lightning speed. If it was so dangerous, then there must be a shocking secret hidden below. It had something to do with the heavenly palace, the Duanmu Shaoman, this continent, and himself. Sui had a feeling that if he could pass this trial, many of the impossible things about him would come to light. Perhaps his parents and the mysterious ball of light were also existences that did not belong to this continent? Right there. Looking from afar, one could see a huge blood-red halo filled with killing intent. The dense red light was dazzling, and the vitality of the entire space was sucked away like a vacuum. Sui used the shaking 100 steps and the peerless dragon flash at the same time. Suddenly, countless afterimages were left behind as he arrived near the blood-red halo in the blink of an eye. With one step, Sui could clearly see that the blood-red halo was actually a ring of sparkling and translucent blood-red jade. It was emitting a terrifying light, and the surging blood chi turned everything around it into dust, leaving no trace behind. The blood sword fruit is about to take shape. This halo should be the first layer of protection for this space. You'd better think of a way to get in, the iron soulfish said in a deep voice. His unprecedented calmness and seriousness added a sense of mystery and thrill to the situation. As he approached the blood-red halo, a majestic blood chi poured out and turned into a faint pattern of demon beasts, exploding towards Sui. The invisible blood chi swept across the area along with a monstrous strength. Sui immediately saw countless horrifying and bloody scenes. Roar! In an instant, the blood chi shot out from the halo. A long dragon-shaped waterfall whistled through the air, rushing towards Sui. The space also spread out in an instant, the boundless space rippled, and the blood chi swirled in the air. It was extremely terrifying. The blood chi light dragon was like surging magma. Sui, who had just taken a step forward, turned around and retreated as fast as lightning. At the same time, he formed a hand seal and shouted, "Go!" Horrifying flames swept out with a destructive force. As the fourth-level Origin Emperor realm cultivation collided with the blood dragon, the destructive high temperature instantly spread out. Layers after layers of flames enveloped the fire dragon. In a short moment, the wailing of thousands of ghosts stopped abruptly. The flames eroded and emitted a crackling sound amidst the spreading blood-red color. It was extremely shocking. The scarlet wings were constantly flapping behind him, and the surrounding extremely dry space was instantly shattered. At this moment, Su Yi's dark eyes were filled with killing intent, and the baleful aura was getting heavier. Boom! Breaking out from the flames, a miserable voice resounded. The voice was extremely sharp and penetrated the space. At the same time, the pressure pressed down on Su Yi like a sea of blood. The blood dragon soared into the sky, instantly turning into an extremely terrifying face as it shot out. In an instant, the energy in the world suddenly became extremely violent. Zhuqiu Feng. When he saw Zhuqiu Feng's face, Su Yi, who realized something was wrong, immediately knew that this was the soul attack of the bloodlight. Su Yi shouted softly. His hand seals changed continuously, and he constantly waved them in the air with endless soul energy. Ultimate Illusion Sky Blade. Under the blade light, a large area of space was sliced like tofu. The blood-red space that was as heavy as a thick layer of earth instantly began to emit sounds of rapidly peeling off. The face that was like a spider web was rapidly spreading. Swish, swish, swish. Clang, clang. Under the attack of 100 blades, the waterfall from before turned into nothingness. The soul energy turned into ripples of energy and returned to the blood-red light. Su Yi's figure began to grow taller. His starry eyes were deep, and the terrifying aura around him carried the murderous aura of a 9 heavens supreme. It was enough to make one's heart tremble. When the last blade light was slashed out, the surging blood aura had already turned into nothingness. Only the blood-red light ring was left standing silently, and it would occasionally let out a buzzing sound. Every time the light overflowed, there would be red ripples rippling out one after another, like the pulse of a heart. Su Yi discovered that the number and extent of the light overflowed was increasing. He thought to himself, "Looks like the blood sword fruit is about to take shape." This blood ring's soul attack and physical attack are both extremely powerful. Of course, soul attacks are innate. The reason why its physical attack is so powerful must be because it has absorbed the souls of all the creatures in the broken sword seabed. Those demon beasts have probably been absorbed by the blood sword fruit itself. If you want to enter, this blood ring will definitely break. Within the blood-red space, Su Yi's soul aura had already spread out. The soaring blood aura was like a huge dragon that resonated with Su Yi from afar. Whoosh! Under the terrifying pressure, a purple demonic light gradually appeared in Su Yi's hand. When the heavenly star shock soul appeared, a long blade light slashed out. It was as if a pitch-black spatial crack had been torn open in the frozen space. Instantly, the blood aura seemed to have sensed it, and began to tremble uneasily. No matter how strong it is, it's just a protective ring. Can it be stronger than a origin ancestor? Su Yi's cold determination spread out, and his battle intent erupted. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.